Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome you guys to another episode of Game Chat. I am the host, Kamikazevondoom, and today's guest is another content creator of the name RogueGold. RogueGold has been doing YouTube for just over 2 years, maybe 3 years now. He's done 156 videos, and he has amassed over 900,000 views. And with that, 6,500 subscribers. Pretty good feat, especially within 2 years. So let's just welcome to the podcast, RogueGold. Ah!
Hey guys, RogueGold. Honored to be on
What's
here.
up, man?
I'm excited.
Yeah, man. So there's no real questions or anything. Obviously, with Game Chat, my whole purpose of this podcast is to meet new content creators, because whether or not we like to admit it or interact, we all have our own walks of life, and we have all somehow ended up becoming content creators on YouTube. So I kind of made this podcast so that I could have like a one-on-one with each content creator, kind of get to know how they tick, what brought them to creating content, and what's in line for the future. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, man. I, for one, how I found you, actually, let me go through real quick. Obviously, to jog my memory of you, you did just release that video about your discussion with Division 3, and that one kind of put you back on the map here recently. It was a pretty big one, man.
It's my biggest video yet, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm glad that people liked it and responded to it for sure.
But, so I think I found you, it was a deep dive. There's something going on in the world of Division 2 about 6 months ago.
Oh yeah.
And you were doing these
Remember that
deep
one.
dives with tweets and developers, and it was actually kind of along the same note. I believe I actually was curious about it as well, because I was seeing that there was kind of like subliminal blows from like one development company to another via Twitter, and I believe that was the same time you were doing that one as well. And that's how I was basically introduced to you. We had a lot of the same views when it came to that, so I felt like it was worth subscribing to, and I've been subscribed ever since. I've always liked your concept and your approach to content creating. Very well informed and knowledgeable, and that's why I reached out to try to get you on this podcast. But I'll shut up now. We can talk about whatever. You can give me an introduction, tell me what's going on. It doesn't matter. The floor is yours, man.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that that was how you're introduced to me. Those kinds of videos are actually my favorite ones to do, more discussion videos rather than in-game ones. Of course I do those too, but that's my favorite thing, is kind of to talk about the behind the scenes, And I should mention, you said that you thought that and some other stuff was well informed, and part of the reason that I choose to cover the Division, and other people have suggested to me before that I cover other games or, maybe try something else, but as someone who makes videos, I feel like if I'm not fully informed on the topic that I'm talking about, then I don't want to be talking about and upload it, So for me, it's the only reason I choose to do the Division over other stuff. I mean, I love the game, but I know I've been playing that since the day that Division 1 came out. So I know everything about, both of these games. And so that's why I've stuck with it and why I continue to, is because if I were to cover some game that I don't know about, that I don't know the whole history of, I don't know the developers, then I wouldn't want to be talking about it, because I don't want to waste people's time, giving them stuff that I don't know myself. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, just a sidebar kind of deal. Do you remember in the Division 1 where they had that glitch where you could do like Legendary or Lexington with like 24 people in your lobby?
Yep. Remember
Did you
that
ever
one?
do that?
I didn't do
think
it
I actually,
myself, but
fell
I
to it.
I saw
That
videos of
was
that.
hilarious.
Some of my favorite ones were the ones in the dark zone where you could get out of the map. I remember early on you could get inside the Zone 3 safe room, like on the bottom floor of that building. You could shoot out to people. You could get in the Zone 6 extraction. There was an elevator you could get in there. That was fun. You could do
Oh no,
Falcon Lost with people,
yeah,
you
the
know, you could
first
shoot the back
incursion.
of it. Yep, did that one for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think we all did. We had to. It was the first ever incursion, and there was a bug to kill the final boss. It's like, yeah, yes,
Easy whip.
please, thank you. Um, that's exactly, I think, what drew me to this game and games like Destiny, where there's a lot of story, a lot of background, but there's it's this looter shooter like nonstop. There's so much information that needs to be shared. Like for example, right before the Division 2 came out, I was doing videos on the Division 1, and I ran into this guy in the terminal, which is like right underneath the base of ops, obviously, you know. And this dude joins my fire team or whatever. We're about to do underground, and he starts talking to me, and he's complaining that his inventory is always full, that he grinds on each of his characters, but all of his inventory is full. He didn't even know there was a stash, man.
Oh man.
And I felt so bad for this dude. I was like, what? Like, you have 4 characters maxed out, and he's
And he
like,
doesn't
yeah,
know
man.
about the
Like,
stash.
he's like, I've been grinding so hard. I've got 2 pieces of striker on this character and 2 pieces on this character, and I really wish that I could do this. And I was like, dude, what about the stash? And he's like, what's the stash? And
That's
I
tough.
just like, I lost it. I felt so bad. I was like, oh, dude, like, if someone told you this years ago, it would have changed your life. Like,
For real.
he's like, you have no idea how much time I've been grinding. It's like, oh my gosh. But it's just instances like that where, like, things that we'll take for granted or we'll take like common sense, it'll like blow other people's mind. They're like, what do you mean crit hit chance maxes out at 60%? And then like half of us will like face palm and be like, yeah, dude, no shit. And then they're like, how did you know that? Or like, you know, protection from elites maxes out at 80%. And everyone's like, what? What? Like, and it's like, yeah, man, how did you not know? But it's just like things just from playing the game, and obviously we've been dedicated to playing any of these games long enough to where we know certain ins and outs that, you know, would definitely help out the community if we shared them. And
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's
that's
that
where
sense of I think that make them enjoy these types of games, you know.
exactly. And just opening up that dialogue and that discussion, it definitely helps out a lot.
Yeah.
So discussion videos, what else drew you to content creating?
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, I think only for the mention in one of my previous videos, I'm a college student currently, and I'm going into hopefully doing filmmaking one day. So obviously, you know, YouTube and video making, well, it's not quite the same. It's still in
Nice.
that same, you know, that same avenue. And so partly I did
Definitely.
it just to continue practicing my skills with that, but then obviously I also love playing the Division, so it seemed like a pretty obvious, you know, combination to go for.
Now, is there, for me, for example, I do it, it started out as a hobby, but obviously once, you know, revenue and stuff like that gets involved, it becomes more of, you know, job-esque type of thing.
Hmm.
Um, how, I don't know. Some people are worried about that aspect of it. Um, what, how do you like YouTube in general, dude? Like, for me, it's kind of spotty, especially with the algorithms and the way they change certain things without telling people. I think Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear was complaining about this the other day, where he's got, you know, 60 or 70,000, something like that, subscribers, and he'll get on the same search results as like somebody with 100 subscribers. doing the same type of video, where
Right.
nowadays YouTube isn't more of, your numbers, it's more of just the content. So if somebody like, Shadow Gaming were to do videos every single day like he does, he shows up in the results just as much, if not more, than people like, Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear or, myself or you, just because it's related content. They just go off of what the content is now, and not so much who's on top, which I think opens up for a lot of content creators to, I guess, progress or to get themselves out there, and it definitely helps that out. But to people like Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear, obviously I understand that the way things were, it was very nice, because if you were trending, you were really trending. And back then, especially with like Division 1, there wasn't much competition. YouTube gaming, I guess at least, wasn't really huge. Like for myself, I think I remember like when I first ever watched YouTube on the Division, obviously it was probably Marco Style.
Yeah.
And that was probably it for the most part. I mean, I remember I subscribed to Nothing But Skills like very early on, like before he even showed his face, like early on. And he's blown the hell up. And
Well, I remember when
nowadays it's
really
like
quick, I'll
there's
just say
300,000.
Yeah. When Division 1 first came out, I remember the big four that me and my friends would always talk about were Marco, Eric's, Skill Up, and Like Butter. I remember those were the big four
exactly.
that everyone talked
like
about.
Butter. Jeez. Those MP7 builds, man.
Yeah. But to talk about what you're saying with YouTube, I think you're right that it's, beneficial in some ways because smaller creators get a better opportunity to get their stuff out. But then at the same time, some people who have gained their following and, earned that through their work then don't get, spread out as much.
Right.
And for how I feel about it, I feel like I'm not as into it or as concerned as some people because I don't see myself taking this to the point of like a career, I have other aspirations I'm going for, and so while obviously the revenue off of YouTube that I've been able to make is very nice, and especially during this year with COVID, it's not, I don't take YouTube, I don't want to say seriously because I do, and I like to engage with my community, of course, but I don't take it to the point where I investigate all the internals about it, because I'm just there to put out my stuff, have fun, get some benefit off, and entertain people,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely agree about that. Yeah, so Eric's Gaming, what was that? Marco. Oh yeah, Skill. Yeah, dude.
Skill Up. Good old Skill Up.
I forgot. Yeah.
Back in the day, I shit on that guy so much. And I mean, because he was always anti-PvP and anti-Dark Zone, and that was like the whole reason I loved the game. But I will say that once he transitioned off of Division, which I want to say was around 1.6 or 1.7, and he moved to doing game reviews, and he started a second channel with his brother. I still watch his stuff today. I think he does really great reviews, and now that he's more of a broad spectrum guy, I like his content a lot. I just never agreed with his Division views, but yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and I think I've found that with certain creators is that they might not like a certain aspect of a certain game, and it's because they're more of their play style or their content creating play style is just different, where he's probably better off doing the reviews because he can be, brutally honest. He can review any game. He can stay relevant, all that, to where games like The Division he probably just wasn't really enjoying, where he's like, screw the Dark Zone.
Yeah.
Which, understandable.
Well, that's part of, I think it's something that I at least try to convey to people who watch my videos is that whenever you give feedback about a part of the game that you think is maybe underdeveloped or it's not good or you want to see improved upon, it's like if you think about it from the developer's point of view, they're making a game that has to appeal to all types of audiences and has to stay relevant and draw new people in. So for people like us who, for example, play the Division, every day or as much as we can, it's like we're the top, what, 1, 2, 3%. And so they're really, at the end of the day, as much as we would want them to cater to us, that's not really in theirs or Ubisoft's best interest. That's something that I at least try to, get the word out on, because I think a lot of people need to understand that when it comes to gaming in general.
Exactly. And I mean, that also goes with even content creators within even our game, where you've got like people like Epic Slayers, where he does like the news updates, or he only does things like that. Every once in a while, every blue moon, he might do like a build video or something like that, but 99% of it, it's just like updates, discussions.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sergeant Greybeard kind of does the same deal, where he'll do daily videos, but they're not just targeted loot. He'll also do like he'll do almost like a news update every single day on those videos, where it's like, hey guys, today's this, here's your targeted loot. Also, I saw a tweet that did this. We're getting a maintenance that does that. And he's very well informed and does that sort of content, and every once in a while he does build videos. And then like on the opposite side of the spectrum, it's like I will primarily only do build videos, but then every once in a while I'll do like vendor resets or like targeted loot, things like that. And I'm starting to enjoy how there's so many different aspects to each of these games, whether even in Call of Duty, where you have campaign, you have multiplayer, you have zombies, and then you have each of the game modes and play styles. There's multiple avenues you can take when content creating. And dang, where did we even start off? Oh, we were talking about you in college.
Well, I can comment on that, Phil. And I was going to say that it's part of the benefit of covering a type of game like this, right? Is that you have all those different facets you can choose to focus on if you want. So that's why I found my favorite thing being in discussions, because like I said, I feel like, and some people clearly in my comments don't agree with me, and that's fine, but I feel like I know everything there is basically to know about this franchise and the developers and all that kind of stuff. And so that's why I enjoy doing the discussion videos, because I feel like I'm well informed enough to have those opinions and make those statements, even though I always make clear that it's not fact, it's just my opinion. But so that's why I enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
I mean, there's people on YouTube that not even related to this at all, but there's people on YouTube that they'll do like maybe it's like rap song reviews or something like that, where they're breaking down the bars, and they'll open up their video with, this is the hottest growing YouTube in the in the world, or this is the best YouTube channel in the world. Like I think more so in the demographic that we are in, our words get dissected and flipped in every certain way, like a twister board, just to prove a certain point. Yep. And sometimes I understand it, where it's like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way. But then there's sometimes where it's like, now you're just trying. Like, it's like when you make something out of nothing. But then again, that's just the climate we live in with the whole COVID-19 and...
Yeah. Well, I'm sure sometimes people make very good points that I hadn't either considered or, taken seriously or whatever. In that case, I always try to convey that, I'm glad I listen to your side of the thing, but you're right, sometimes it's like people just trying to get a reaction or prove you wrong for whatever reason.
I mean, just the other day, and I'm sure these guys are going to be jumping up and down screaming because I'm referencing it, but just the other day I was in the Dark Zone just playing solo, just doing whatever, and these two players were getting jumped by a group of 4. And I was like, all right, I'll go help them out. Like, whatever. And we kill the rogues, and then those guys invite me. And I was like, oh, okay, they're just, whatever. And they invite me to the party, and then they invite me to the party just to try to talk crap about my YouTube channel.
The two guys that you helped,
And
or the four?
the guys that I helped.
Oh wow.
And it took me off guard for a second. It was like, I just helped you out. You know who I am. You invited me just to try to get a reaction out of me. And
It's very strange.
very strange. But it happens. And the best part is when they don't get the reaction they want, and then they're like stuttering Stanley, and they're just like, well, and it's like what's the purpose of this?
The Dark Zone
it's
breeds
just-
a lot of those interesting moments for sure.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I did a little segment about toxicity within this gaming franchise, and it was just it all revolves around Dark Zone.
Yeah.
Because playing, I remember in Division 1, where playing PvP in Last Stand, Skirmish, or even Survival PvP, it wasn't really toxic. You could actually meet some really cool people. Especially in like Last Stand, where you've got like 7 different teammates. You can meet some really cool people, and that's how a lot of friendships were formed, where it's like, yo dude, you're in Last Stand every day, what's up, you want to group up? Yeah man, let's go. It was always nice.
Yeah, for sure.
But
It's just partly
the
because
Dark
of how
Zone,
PvP is taken in Div 2, why it's not like that, you know? How it's been received,
Right.
I should say.
and conflict is not like
Good?
nothing like it was in Division 1.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some good words to say, but let's just say if they had Last Stand day 1, this game would probably be a lot bigger.
Oh, yeah. And people like to
Because-
refuse all the time. They say that PvP doesn't bring any player base, but I'm telling you, if Div 3 has good PvP, it's going to be a much more popular game.
Yeah, I like it when you say if Div 3, like Div 3's already happening. I love it, man. I love it.
Well, you know, that's how I roll.
I love it though. Because all right, so let's hit pause on this because
Okay.
we're going down another rabbit hole here. So I was trying to get more information about you before we just jump into Division stuff, because some people on this audience listening to this podcast might want to know more about the creator.
Of course.
So you're going to college. Hopefully you're seeking a career in the film industry.
Yep.
And you're making videos, trying to hone in your craft of editing, directing, producing, and just creating film.
Exactly.
So I completely love it. What are you aiming towards? Like actual like motion pictures, TV shows? You just looking at like doing like professional videos on like social media, YouTube?
Yeah, I would say movies and TV is my aspiration to do some sort of, not necessarily editing, I was saying YouTube isn't fully a way to practice it, but I'd like to do some sort of directing or, executive type deal on those, because I've always had a interest in storytelling in general. I did a lot of writing when I was younger, and I still like to do that, but I've always had a special attraction to film, I would say.
Are you gonna move to LA or Vancouver?
Those are the two. I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into specifics, but I'm currently in community college, and I am trying to get into NYU. It's one of the top
Oh,
film
nice.
schools
Yeah.
in the U.S. So that's the
Very
goal.
cool.
And then about moving, I don't know. We'll see after that, but that's the first step,
Yeah, whenever I hear anything about movies, whether it be production or any sort of distribution, it's either out of LA or Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like all of the CW, DC superhero shows like Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman, all those TV shows, even the Deadpool movies, all those were all in Vancouver,
Yeah, they have good
not in LA.
they have good film. I think LA is more where they do the um, behind the scenes like production type of stuff, you know. But I think I know Vancouver's a good spot that they like to film a lot of stuff. I know Georgia is a big one
Oh
for
yeah,
Marvel
Georgia. Yep.
movies and that type of stuff. They have a lot of studios down there.
Even ABC or not ABC, AMC.
Yeah,
That's
they
that's a big one in Atlanta.
that's my favorite TV shows, The Walking Dead, from them.
There you go.
The more you
I
know.
am making a post on my community tab to tell people if they want a sneak peek, they can come listen to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, nothing big. Maybe get a handful of people to come say hi. Anyways, so that is awesome, dude. I think Sergeant Graybeard does something with the same industry. So that would probably be someone to reach out to. Yep,
Didn't know that. That's cool.
most definitely. It's about who you know, not where you're from.
Very much so, yeah.
It's all about who you know. Now, all right. So moving on from that, is there? Let's see. So, where are you at? You're in the U.S.
Yeah.
So you're on the West Coast, correct?
West Coast.
Now,
West Coast, best
are
coast.
you? Oh, okay. That was my next question. You're one of those. Okay. All right.
I don't have much
We
experience with the East Coast, so I won't judge too hard, but I definitely love the West Coast for the scenery, you know.
I am an East Coast baby myself. Born in Florida, and then obviously throughout the military, I lived everywhere. And the kitchen sink. But after that, now I landed in Boston. So
Nice.
I think I've no matter what, I've been East Coast.
Got a friend on here I play with who's from Boston.
Now the who's that?
He's not a YouTube guy, just someone we actually met him in Division 1, but we still play with him to this day. Never met him in real life, but you know, we've developed a friendship over Xbox. One of the benefits of gaming.
I guarantee I will not know him in real life. I was just kidding.
Yeah, no.
But I actually spent my honeymoon with my wife in California.
Yeah.
And that was one of the only times I've spent an extended period on the West Coast, and I think it's gorgeous. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's definitely very different from the East.
Especially the coast. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, we're going to have to jump into Division stuff because we're both Division content creators.
Of course.
So, is there anything non-Division that you can think of to talk about before we dive into that rabbit hole?
I'd be, if it's to anyone's interest, I'd love to give my gaming background because I think it's a little bit relevant. You actually mentioned it earlier that you've always been into looter shooters like Destiny and Division. I'll ask you, have you ever played any traditional MMOs?
MMOs. Now, give me a...
Like World of Warcraft is kind of the prime.
I actually have not.
So that was where I got my first interest in because in general, I mean it's a bit of an extrapolation, but I think looter shooters are somewhat of a take on MMOs. I mean, Destiny and Division I've heard before be referred to as MMO lights because a traditional MMO, it stands for massively multiplayer online, I believe. You can see like hundreds and thousands of players in your world at like one time, you know. And so I got my start. I started playing WoW in, what was that, 2013? Beginning of 2013. And then played it for pretty hardcore for about 2 years before I moved on to Destiny. But yeah, WoW had a special place in my heart. And that type of game where you have all these people collaborating and doing, you know, PvP and activities and raids and stuff has always been my jam for video games. Once I found it, that's always been my favorite.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
In case anyone was curious, now you know.
I'm gonna have to steal that from you for the future because that's a good one. That's very good. I actually have not ever dabbled in WoW. I've known several people that have lost years off their life to that video game.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely a different beast, that's for sure.
yeah, I just didn't want to jump down that because I kind of do the same thing where once I get to a game, I'm kind of hooked on it until I know the ins and outs completely.
Hmm.
And games like Destiny and Division nowadays really satisfy that itch.
For sure.
Now, as far as me, man, good question. I started out with Mario when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
My dad always had game systems, so I was born in the late 80s, and throughout the entire 90s, it was game system after game system after game system.
Yeah, that's
I
when
think,
they chugged them out, huh?
like, by the time I was maybe 4 or 5, I already knew how to do, like, fatalities in Mortal Kombat.
There
like,
you go.
But I think it started with Mario, and then it went to Zelda, and then the Sega Genesis came out. So
Yep.
then I did Sonic, what's it, Alter Beast, I believe, Altered Beasts, and then like Streets of Rage, and
I can pretend I know what some of these are, but I really don't.
oh no, you're good, man.
I know
And
Sonic
then
and Mario, of course, but some of those other ones too.
after the Genesis, I think I got a N64. I remember that. So I got an N64, and then I played like GoldenEye, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Zelda, Ocarina of Time,
The classics.
all the classics, yeah. And I think I would blame, or I would probably blame where I'm at now in my complete interest in anything gaming is probably because of my dad.
Yeah.
And yeah, he can get all the blame for that because he would buy like the guidebooks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we would go to I think back then it was EB Games. It wasn't GameStop. It was like EB Games or something like that.
Hmm.
And we'd get like a Mortal Kombat Ultimate like guidebook or like a Zelda guidebook. And we would just completely play the entire game. And then, let's see, I was never a PlayStation guy, to be honest.
Me neither.
I got an Xbox OG with Halo and Project Gotham Racing. Those were my
Nice.
jam. And then Need for Speed Underground 2 came out. Obviously, I played that. And then when Halo 2 came out, that's when they started multiplayer.
Uh-huh.
And believe it or not, that's the very first ever console multiplayer online game. In fact, I want to say it was the first multiplayer online game.
Yeah, I think I heard that
I believe so.
tidbit before.
And that's where I started my gamer tag, Kamikaze.
Oh, really? It's been around that long?
Way back then, yeah.
Nice.
Um,
That's a cool
so
bond that
then-
you and your dad had.
yeah. Did that. Well, I mean, what it was is he was, in his mid-20s, early 30s, and he was, enjoying technology. Because back then,
Yeah.
I mean, what? They had, like, Pong or whatever. They didn't really have anything growing up, so...
Yeah.
I'm the same way, too, growing up. I love technology, and I've gone to college for several years for computer science, programming, cybersecurity, Cisco Academy, like a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm very intrigued. Like even like the movie Grandma's Boy, like that like totally sold me on being in the video game industry.
Yeah.
Was growing up and seeing that movie Grandma's Boy, where I was like, bro, people get paid to play video games. People get paid to make video games. Like, are you kidding me? Really?
That's the life right there.
Yeah, dude. So, what I did is I was very interested in that to the point where I always wanted to be like a game tester, something like that, to where like I got to play it to break it kind of deal, kind of like what we do now. And obviously, as times have grown on, people, related to like that Grandma's Boy movie, they don't really exist too much. There's not like a big like employment for game testers. It's not really a thing.
Like something you'll hear about, really.
Right. Well, and every once in a while you'll see like I know one of the old YouTubers got a job with Massive, and it's called content specialist.
Oh yeah, right, Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
George.
I actually shouted him out today on Twitter because Massive just released a tweet about getting a job with them.
I saw that. Yeah.
So I commented and said, are you guys hiring content creators as content specialists, or was he the only one?
Yeah, there
Because you never see those jobs.
you go. Right.
I've never seen a game tester quote unquote job ever. And obviously if you're good into programming and coding, you could be a developer of some sorts. But like Hamish Bode, what's his job title? Community developer? Community outreach?
I think he's
maybe?
like the lead community manager over there. Yeah.
Right. I want something like that.
Yeah.
Like anything related to that, or anything related to just playing games. Like I enjoy it so much, dude. I remember when I first moved out to Boston that this is where they made BioShock 2, I believe, and BioShock Infinite, I believe, were both based out of Boston. And I love that game franchise. And I thought that would be so cool if I could somehow like weasel my way into their company.
Yeah.
But like it's just really far and few between. And then you have companies like Massive and Ubisoft, where a lot of them they're not even based in the United States.
Right.
Like it's Sweden.
Well, YouTube's a good way to get involved, even if you can't be a part of it.
Exactly, and I think that's where, I guess that's how I ended up doing it. I don't know. Like, I never thought I'd ever be doing YouTube or anything like that.
Yeah.
But, it's not bad, man.
It's not.
I started out because it got to the point where I would watch, like you said, there was like a top 5 or something like that. And it got to the point where I was watching like a top 10. There was only like 10 total.
Yeah.
And I would watch all of them. And about half of them would release builds that I had. But my numbers were different. And I'm not going to say whether they were better or not. But I like got to the point where I felt compelled. I was like, maybe I could do this, because I was in the military for a good number of years, and also having college and like even just taking like public speaking classes. It definitely helps you for stuff like this. And the military definitely forces you to do the whole instructor student role, or evaluator role, where you have to dumb things down and subcategorize the subcategories to get people to understand certain things.
It's an interesting angle. I hadn't thought about that, but for sure,
And
makes sense.
that's kind of the angle I pull with this game, is like I could teach you about weapons, I could teach you about the gears, I could teach you about certain attributes, I could teach you about certain strategies. And it's just, it goes on and on. It's a never-ending cycle, and I love it because it's a never-ending changing game. Where a year ago, we were talking about Berserk and Clutch.
Good.
And now, no one talks about Berserk or Clutch.
Because Berserk is gone.
It's like a completely different game. Or like a year ago, I was making Thieves Den videos. and there's not
Oh,
even
the
a
thieves'
thieves' den
den.
anymore. Yeah, just stuff like that, you know. Um, that was a really good question, though. So I kind of just progressed that way.
Yeah.
It got to the point I actually was stuck in Destiny. I was really invested in Destiny. I loved that gameplay, the raids, the community. It
Raids are
just felt
top
good.
tier.
Oh yeah, great. The first Destiny was a great game. There was a few bugs here and there, but they fixed it, and they were very involved. And my favorite part was they had a companion app for your phone,
Yeah, yeah. I still have that, I think, even though I don't play.
and that game is what, like nearly 10 years old now.
It was like
And
2014, I think.
okay,
The first one.
years. So a game that's 6 years old, you can still use an app on your phone that changes gear from one character to another to the stash to another character. You can even equip certain weapons and gear onto your character via your app
Yeah, that
in
was good.
game. But you can't do that in the Division 2
Yeah.
6 years later. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
It's
it was
definitely one of
Nothing But Skills made a video on that where it was like, please give us an app. Like,
Mhm.
but obviously that went nowhere.
I'm just of the mindset that the developers of this game don't always take the they don't always go for the innovative step, you know? They don't always go for the risk. They try to play it safe sometimes, and it works out sometimes, but other times then it leaves people feeling underwhelmed, I think, you know?
Most definitely. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna just dive into the Division then. So
All right.
we've gotten all the pleasantries out of the way. Got all the background out of the way. I'm just gonna sit my character up here at Coney Island because I'm in game on right now while we're talking.
The nice
Um,
safe house up there.
It is. I like the safe house. It's very nice. So jumping into the Division, you said you started with the Division 1 at launch.
Yeah, it's a funny story actually how I got into it. I wish I could say I was a beta player, but I wasn't because when the first one came out, or just shortly before it came out, I was in high school, and my friend said, "Hey, are you gonna get the Division?" And I'm like, I haven't heard of it or I haven't seen it or whatever. So that day when I went home, I looked it up, and I think for some reason instead of the Division, I end up watching something for Rainbow Six because I didn't know any of these Ubisoft properties. So I
Right.
watched that and I'm like, it doesn't really look like it doesn't really look that good or whatever. And then I don't entirely remember how it went, but I ended up getting the game. I pre-ordered it so it came on launch day, and Division 1 ended up becoming my favorite game of all time. Meanwhile, the friend who told me to get it never played it. So so that's how that turned out. But
Oh my god.
thanks to him, I ended up playing Division, and yeah, like I said, became my favorite game of all time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's got to be up there, doesn't it? Yeah, it's probably my favorite too.
Yeah, it's just
What I
just the Dark
did,
Zone, honestly.
I think I was playing Destiny, and I remember seeing the E3 presentation of the Division, where it almost looked like real people were just walking down the street, and then you had like that map
Yeah,
AR that like popped out of the ground. It looked so sick.
yeah.
And I remember seeing that and then them delaying the game. So then I was like,
Hmm.
all right, I'll play Destiny. And then they delayed the game, and then by the time it came out, I wasn't hyped for it anymore. I was like, oh yeah,
Right.
that game, yeah. And
And it didn't
my
look like that first version.
right, not at all, not even close. And my friend at the time, I think it was a coworker of mine, knew that I was pretty big into Destiny and raiding and all that. And by that time, Destiny had already been out for quite a while. And they were like, "Hey man, we're buying the Division." And I was like, what's the division? Like, oh yeah, that thing from a while ago. And then they pulled up Twitch. So the first time I ever saw Twitch, it was someone playing the division.
Really?
And I watched it and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, like game style where it's like over the shoulder kind of thing. And you can like peek around corners, and then it just looked really cool. And then I started researching it and then remembered that it was like a 1-to-1 replica of like New York, and that it was, all this cool stuff, and you could do this and that, and you could put on masks, you could put on cool outfits, you could be Santa Claus, you could be a pig astronaut. Like there were so many things you could be. And I picked that up. I think I picked it up a couple months after it was released, and I never put it down.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got introduced to YouTube, that was around maybe 1.4, 1.5. And then by the time 1.8 came around, I got cocky and made a YouTube channel.
Yeah. That's when I made mine, too.
Right.
It was 1.8.
Time for me to make one. And that's exactly what I did.
And how long was it before you started getting a following?
I met all the requirements and I became partnered 92 days into it.
Nice. See, because my problem was that I didn't like when I first started, I had no concept of like how to run it or anything. So actually,
Right.
You said at the beginning I've been doing it for 2 years. Because I had to take a big break in the period that Div 2 came out, and when I came back finally, which was just over a year ago, it was like October of 2019, I only had like 30 subs. So that first like year and a half that my channel was there, it was just like a video once every 2 months, and no one was watching me, but I was still
Right.
enjoying it,
Oh, of course. I have a blast. I still don't see it as a job. I just see it as I get paid for something I enjoy doing.
Yeah. That's the smart way to look at it, probably.
Yeah, I'm trying. Anyways.
Yeah.
Because once you lose that light, it kind of just goes downhill. I'm not going that way. So when I first started my channel, I actually did survival. My first like 5 or 10 videos were all about survival.
Yeah.
I did a complete start to finish walkthrough of survival, and it was like 2 hours long. And
you survived that whole time?
Yeah, no, it was start to finish. I showed them how to make an all purple build before you go into the dark zone. I showed them how to make an all yellow build whenever you were ready to extract and kill the hunters. And then I actually went to each extraction and killed all the hunters. I made like this whole like cool guide that nobody ever watched.
Yeah, that sucks.
And
sounds very helpful.
yeah.
I know it would have been back then.
But that's how I started, because I was like, man, because back then I was doing survival, I think once a day. I would play like a full like 2 hour long game or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I made those survival videos. I'm trying to remember. And then I think I went to build videos. And I think it was like my 3rd or 4th build video, it like caught on. And then I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
To the point where I think
That's clearly served you well.
I was doing like 5 to 10 videos a week back then just to try to get my name out there. So I was trying to like saturate the industry or whatever, the algorithm. And that's how I found Clint Flairwoo. I was talking to you about him earlier.
Right.
Because I would check the algorithms and I was noticing that I was posting more than the big YouTubers. So I would see my videos pop up more. And then it got to the point where if I did it fast enough, I could release a build before the big guys did, so that when people searched it, mine popped up.
Yeah.
And,
it's all about that timing.
Yeah, I went full speed ahead, because that was actually my YouTube channel was kind of a college experiment / passion project kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I did mine, the philosophy, and it still is to this day, is I don't spend a dime. I don't pay for any software. I don't do heavy editing. I don't pay for views. I don't pay for subs. I don't pay for anything.
Yeah.
I stream my videos, live stream, and if I mess up, I mess up. I can always redo it. It's free, and then I can edit that stream and do whatever I want with it. It makes it really easy, and with the Division 2, it's very easy to go into photo mode, make a cool thumbnail, throw some letters on it.
I don't think everyone takes advantage of that, because I do. That's how I make some of mine if I don't use like concept art. But I don't think everyone takes advantage of that much. You know who has really good thumbnails? You know who Cold Boy is?
Right.
He's got some great ones where he's like aiming. I need to figure out how you aim down sights during photo mode, because I haven't figured that out.
I'll tell you how he does it.
But you know how? You can tell me later if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now. I don't care.
All right.
I've actually heard that he buys thumbnails from people.
Oh.
Or he used to. There's a big dude on Twitter. His name's like Ollie something. He does really good screenshots in game.
Uh-huh.
And he was telling me how he would lend his photos to Coldboy. But as far as the aiming trick, because I think Coldboy does those by himself. The aiming trick, what you do is you take photo mode with somebody else. He doesn't take a picture of himself.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
He either gets somebody else to take a picture of him and send it to him, or he does it to somebody else, vice versa.
Yeah.
Because Jacob, do you know Jacob R24?
Sounds familiar, but not off the top of my head.
He's another content creator. There's like so many of us.
I know. There's so many people, you even find them every day. You're like, oh, I didn't know this person with 5,000 subs existed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's insane how many there are.
Oh, I do know Jacob. He messaged me on here before. I should say it if he listens to this. I remember you, Jacob.
Yeah, he probably will. He's in my clan and everything. Nice guy, friend of mine. But anyways, whenever, I guess he talks to Coldboy, and they both, found out about it around the same time, because Jacob does the exact same thing for his thumbnails, where it's just him taking a picture of someone aiming down sight and being like, oh, look at this build. I actually had him do a few thumbnails for a couple of my videos here recently. Not bad.
Nice.
Where was I going with all this? Oh, we were talking about early YouTube days. But yeah, that was it. Because when I first started my channel, my big thing was I used to market a lot on Facebook. And I think at one point I was involved with like 20 division groups on Facebook, something like that. And I would just post links to my videos, help people out, and that's how I kind of built up an audience, and then I just kind of went from there. I don't do Facebook at all anymore.
Yeah, that's how I have a guy in my clan who streams, shout out Eyes Away. He does it on Facebook, and that's where he's trying to grow his thing, so it's good to hear that's where he started too. It works eventually.
Well, the thing is now, I don't know if you knew this, but Mixer was bought out by Facebook.
Right.
And
did they just steal their interface and all that? Not steal, but then integrate?
Everything, yeah.
I see.
Now it's called Facebook Gaming, so a lot of streamers are now doing Facebook like that, because basically Mixer got taken over.
Right.
But I stick with Twitch. Twitch is very easy. I mean, I can make 30 different Twitch accounts and stream and edit videos without anyone knowing I even did it. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Stay low key. So that was how I came to be. We already knew about yours in your college. Yeah, so let's go back to the division. So, do you PvP or PvE more? What kind of
PvP.
player are you?
For sure,
PvP?
PvP.
I mean, obviously your name's Rogue Gold, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, I'm not gonna, just assume that you're a PvPer, but based
Yeah.
off of your name, I would hope you are.
So here's the
Um,
deal. Here's what I think a lot of people in my comments sometimes don't understand is that just because I like PvP the most doesn't mean I don't like PvE. You know what I mean? I like the game
right.
because it's a looter shooter. But the whole reason I became hooked with Division 1 in the first place was because the concept of the Dark Zone was so interesting, and I've always really enjoyed open world PvP. And so while the Dark Zone isn't fully that, it's pretty much that. And that whole concept of going manhunt and holding out against, 20 people was what hooked me ultimately. So yeah, PvP's always been my favorite, and the build making stuff is just, icing on the cake, being able to make your own setup and all that, versus a Call of Duty where you have much more limited ability to do that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And man, to be honest, that's why so many people abandon the Division 2 is because the amount of community involvement with the Dark Zone in the Division 1 was so heavy to the
Yeah.
point where like even all my build videos that were all based for the Dark Zone, I think for the last 2 years of the Division, all we ever did was play Dark Zone or
Hmm.
Conflict or Last Stand,
Yeah.
Skirmish.
Do the global
And
events. That's about it.
yeah, I mean, try to stay up on the leaderboards for the Dark Zone and the global events because for some reason they don't have them in the Division 2, but there were leaderboards in the Division 1.
They do. There's
And
hidden. Do you know about that?
yeah,
If you go
uh,
to progress, it's not the same. I know what you mean, but they
right, but
they
those are
exist to a
all
degree.
over time. Those
Oh, you mean
are
like the weekly? Yeah, I know what you mean.
right. There's no competition
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because anyone can say, "Hey, I've got the longest manhunt," and it's like, "Really?" And it's like, "Yeah, I cheated to get it, but
Back in year one.
I'm there." You know, and I just think I used to like the monthly Dark Zone leaderboards and the weekly Dark Zone leaderboards in Division 1
Right.
where it kept you competitive. It was like, hey, you have to get this many manhunt kills.
Yeah.
Or it was like bragging rights. It was like, bro, you don't know who I am? Look at the leaderboard, motherfucker. I'm top 10. Something like that. And it was mainly just bragging rights. I remember doing videos in the Division 1 for like global events where I would say this is how to get, top 10 on the leaderboard. You hoard caches in your stash, and then open them all up during the global event, and you get all the shit. But
I think
I
that's
just
just part
think,
of the reason why Div 2 doesn't have all that is because they went too casual. I think that's the downfall of a lot of
yeah,
games.
that's yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. It's not a competitive game atmosphere anymore. It's more casual.
And
Where
part of that for the PvP is because they tried to, get rid of the chicken dancing, which I've always said I think is a stupid argument that was a bad thing. Aside from, because you know how there was reports of how it manipulated like the servers in some way you could like phase your character out, and obviously that wasn't good. But I don't think strafing should be a negative topic when it comes to PvP, because I think in
Mhm.
every PvP game, movement and strafing is just part of it. Doesn't make it cheesy. But
I
I know a lot of
completely
people
agree.
disagree with me on that.
No, I agree with you. I'll be Team RogueGold on that one. Um, because oh man, there's so many problems. Like I was a DZ dude all the way through and through. I think at
Hmm.
one point I even me and my buddies even made a clan where we were the DZ clan, and it was just everything DZ. All we ever did was DZ.
Yeah.
And the problem with the way they integrated it into Division 2, I think they missed the mark so bad on PvP, they just gave up. It's how it feels. Where it was like, hey guys, you remember all that trash talking people would do in Division? And everyone's like, yeah. And they'd be like, well, now you can toggle it off, where you can turn on and off the VoIP. And so that made it to where trash talking was no longer an issue. And then they were like, are you guys sick of a big dark zone that you have to run up and down through? And they're like, yeah. So then they made 3 little dark zones. And then it was like, fuck, man, like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And then it went from, I believe it used to be 24 player lobbies, something like that, 24 or 30. Yeah.
24.
And then they dropped it down to 12. So I think there was an example earlier I was giving you, is that I used to solo Dark Zone all the time in Division 1. I'm starting to do it now in Division 2, now that I'm done with conflict and all that. But in Division 1, I used to be able to start at Dark Zone 1 and work my way all the way up to Dark Zone 9 and farm, do whatever. And I could meet 4 or 5 different groups while I did that. Some of them might shoot me in the back, some of them might be friendly, whatever. It was still a lot of people.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you get into the Dark Zone, it's one of 2 things, and that is it. It's either a PvP lobby, and all of them are sitting at the same checkpoint, or it's a PvE lobby, and they only want to farm, and the second you kill them, they never come back.
Exactly. And I, kind of going off what I said earlier, I think, and again, like I always say, it's all my opinion, but I think the reason that they went where they did in Div 2 is because even though PvP was more popular in Div 1 than it is now, obviously at the time they thought, well, how are we going to make this even more popular? And it's because the people that mainly did PvE, as soon as they went in the Dark Zone Div 1 and they got ganked once, they never came back. And so the devs were like, well, how are we going to try and make them more invested? Because even though we think, and we know even now that PvP was popular then, their goal obviously is to try and include more people. But I just don't think it panned out at all in the right way.
Well, here's the thing, and I can break it down to you very simple. So imagine yourself in a board of directors room at some, skyscraper business building. You're in a business room, and next to you is Red Storm. You got Terry with his big drinking mug, and you've got one of his other developers sitting there. That way he doesn't have to talk, he can just drink out of his mug. And on the other side, you've got Massive. Massive / Ubisoft, whatever they want to call themselves. And what happened is Terry is the equivalent of Julian Garrity at Ubisoft or Massive, whatever. They're creative directors. They are the director of creating this shit. Now, it got to the point where Division 1 was gaining popularity more from 1.8 to 1.9 than it did the entire other part of the game. Because for some reason, the 6-piece classified gear sets, the resistance horde mode, the incursions, all the balancing, the optimization station, dude, there was so much you could do. Survival, underground, last stand, and then you had the global events, and it got to the point where by the time year 2 came around, year 2.5, year 3, the game was perfect. And
well, quote unquote.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I thought the balancing at 1.8 was kind of shit with Pred and Nomad. I hated that stuff so much, but overall, yeah, it was good. The game was good.
Yes, and I agree. Pred and Nomad are very much a pain, and I'll forever remember that. However, I do remember that if I ran a 10k Banshee build, it could mow through them either way. So just remember that. Put on Banshee.
Yeah.
The
But on last
what I'm saying is they gained so much popularity because by that time they were basically done with the game, and the developers were on a high. They were on a high note, and stocks were skyrocketing. Everyone was praising them. They were doing state of the games, whipping their dicks out. They were like, "Look how big this is," shit like that, and everyone was loving it. They were like, "Dude, we want more. Keep going, keep going." And then they released Division 2. Now go back to the boardroom meeting. So you have Red Storm. Terry is sitting there with his big mug, and he's like, "Look, we know PvP. We know PvP so much that we do the Dark Zone, we do the updates, they love it. Every time we do anything, they love it. We know exactly what to do, and we will listen to the community." So what they did is they were like, "All right, they don't like trash talking. We'll give you an option. You can turn it on or off." And then they're like, "The Dark Zone's too big? Fine. We'll give you 3 Dark Zones. If you don't like one Dark Zone, you can go to the other. Why not? Just do it." And then they were like, "There's too many people in the Dark Zone. We don't want to overcrowd it, so we'll knock the numbers down. You can have more fun." Sure, you got it. And then they even doubled down, and from day one, they said that if they were to do any nerfs or buffs, that they could do it on the PvP side only, to where they wanted you to play PvP. Red Storm was the flag runners. Play PvP. We do it, you should do it too. Play PvP. And it fell on its fucking face. It fell so hard on its face. I started the Division 2, was very interested in it, and while you're leveling up and doing those missions, it would unlock the
Recon.
entrance to the division, or to the Dark Zone. So it'd be like, "Hey, go unlock DZ East. Hey, go unlock DZ South." And I thought those were really fun. It was like an immersive, like, "Hey, this is the Dark Zone. This is how you extract. This is how you do this." I thought it was an amazing way to get everybody on the same page, because the reason they did that is they wanted people in the Dark Zone. If there's no one playing PvP, there's no reason for them to develop PvP content. And that's where they were from the start. If you go back and listen to them on State of the Game, they only did a handful of them, so it's really not hard to go back and listen to them. And you only listen to what Red Storm says. They were only following their demographics from Conflict and Dark Zone. That's all they were doing.
Yeah.
And it fell so hard on its face because there weren't enough people in the Dark Zone. It got to the point where, like I said, there was only 2 categories. It was either everyone's packed up in the checkpoint PvPing, or they're farming PvEing. There was no mix, no combination. So this was forcing people out. It was like, "Hey, I don't want to do the Dark Zone. Screw the Dark Zone. I'll just run around Washington, D.C. That shit sucks." And I completely agree. One of my Dark Zone builds is like a pure tank, just because when I'm walking around in the Dark Zone, people just shoot you in the back. They don't even try anymore. There's not even like a, "Oh, hey, there's a guy, you want to fight" kind of deal. It's just, let's shoot him in the back and run away. And from a PvE standpoint, I completely agree that it's annoying. It's a waste of time, because if you're just trying to farm a couple landmarks, extract, go home, whatever, it just wastes your time, because now you have to go back to the checkpoint, then you have to come back, pick up your loot, whatever. And that's what's forcing these PvE guys to leave. They're like, "Hey, screw you, dude. I don't need the Dark Zone." So back to this boardroom meeting. They throw out their graph, and they're like, "Look, players are not playing in the Dark Zone. What do we do?" So Terry and Red Storm are like, "Hey, we can revert the Rogue status back to the way it was in Division 1 and just call it Rogue 2.0. And they're like, okay, that could work, that could work. And then they revamped the manhunt status kind of deal. And they also had the Thieves' Den, which they thought would take off more than it did. And it just kept falling flat on its face. No one was interested. They kept getting shit online, Reddit, Twitter. They kept getting shit.
Well, here's what. I'll leave.
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it.
My point was that this boardroom meeting that you're talking about, that scenario, all that feedback that you're saying that they said that they picked up on, they're like, okay, let's implement this in Division 2. That was all coming from non-hardcore PvP players in Division 1. That was from the PvE people and the people that came in and saw problems with the Dark Zone, whereas us, we wanted more of the same, right? Or, innovations that expanded upon the same concepts that were in Division 1. But what they did was to try and cater to more people who were turned off from the Dark Zone once they experienced it a little bit, and that failed in Division 2, right? And I think that they saw that when it first, because I remember when it first came out and people wanted there to be a rogue system in the ODZ, and Terry was like, we're not going to, chances that we'll ever do that is very unlikely. We're not just going to take that feedback from a few people who are unhappy. And then later they added a rogue system. So I think that they realized pretty quick that they really failed to judge who was going to, because now all the people that came from Division 1 that liked PvP said that this sucks, and now they're gone. And the problem was that we who played PvP in Division 1, we knew that those ideas that PvE players wanted implemented wouldn't work. We knew that it wouldn't be as fun as the one we had. And so now that they did do that, all the people that did play PvP are gone. And the people who wanted these changes aren't there anymore, because at the end of the day, they didn't want a PvP anyway. They just wanted a better Dark Zone for them.
Right. But this goes back to the whole, one side of the boardroom is Red Storm and the other side is massive Ubisoft. Because
well, they're both Ubisoft studios, right? It's not like they're independent things.
But
they're both studios under the umbrella.
Right, but they were under different departments of the game. It's like two different studios making aspects of the game and then giving it to someone else, and they put it together like a puzzle kind of deal.
Yeah, but Massive is more overall the brand, and then they got Red Storm to come in and help more with PvP than anything else. But Red Storm did also develop some of the PvE content for 1.8. I know that.
Oh yeah, and in the first division, I think they were doing incursions, if I believe, something like that.
Something.
But so you have Massive on one side, and you have Red Storm on the other. And what's going on here is Ubisoft is like, hey guys, we just did this huge deal with Epic Games. Epic Games owns and runs Fortnite, and Fortnite is the biggest game of games. And we're going to jump on Epic Games, screw Steam, screw all that, and we're going to just go gun-ho and try to get all the players. Because they figured if Fortnite was doing their thing on Epic Games, getting all this traction, all this, promotion, why not jump on that train and try to get some of that audience? And so what you have here is you have Ubisoft, who's on, let's just call it like a little call box, like Charlie and Charlie's Angels. And Ubisoft is like, hey guys, we did a poll and people don't like this, this, and this. How are you going to fix it? And Red Storm's like, all right, we can do, the toggling, we can do this, we can do this. And then Massive's like, okay, well, we'll take care of open world control points, this, this, and this. You take care of PvP. And they're completely separate. Like, it's like dumbfounding how there's not a creative director that's in charge of or overlooking both of them. It just seems like they're so separate that it's
there's the
too
game director
opposite.
That we never hear from, Matthias.
Right, who is nowhere to be found. Nowhere.
Yeah, we never see him or Julian, which I think is annoying. But
also
that's because I work on Div 3.
Anytime Julian ever speaks, it's either about something else, or I've caught him talking, I think it's either 3 or 5 times, talking about a solo PvE only Tom Clancy franchise game. He's
Yeah, he
mentioned
put out
it
that poll.
numerous times. And so back at this boardroom meeting, so all this shit falls on its face. Red Storm's getting laughed out of the office because no one plays PvP. Ubisoft comes down, they're like, all right, the polls came in, 90% of everyone is playing PvE, and less than 0.5% are playing Conflict, and everyone else is in the Dark Zone. And they're like, all right, so let's focus on PvE. We'll make money. And Red Storm's like, well, give us some exclusive shit. Let's try to bump PvP back up. So that's when, if you go back, I think it was like TU6 or TU7, you had Terry and some other developer with him from Red Storm go on to State of the Game, and they said, hey, there's a possibility that in the next update we could up the gear score from 500 to 515 exclusive to the Dark Zone. And they were like, we're going to do that to pump up PvP numbers in the Dark Zone, and we're going to give you a new game mode for Conflict. We're going to give you team elimination. And everyone ripped them for that gear score idea. Ripped them a new one. They were like, how dare you force us into the Dark Zone? How dare you do that? That's going to give everyone a 1-up because they're just going to be in the Dark Zone getting all that good gear, and then they're going to kill me because I've got bad gear. You know, this kind of bullshit. And that's where the PvP community really, really clashed with the PvE community. Because it was like, hey, we're not getting any attention. You guys are getting this update after this update, and it's all PvE related. We're getting nothing. And this one rumor about the gear score, a lot of people were like, hell yeah, dude. Let's farm the DZ, and then we can hit that raid 515. Let's go. And it completely fell on its face. To the point where they're in that boardroom meeting, and they're like, all right, guys, that was the last straw. Like, we're going to do seasons. We'll do like a battle pass, make people pay for every season. Like, we're not going down the PvP road. Like, people are coming over here to play the game, play the PvE content. They're having fun. They're doing it a lot. We're looking at our ratings. They love PvE. Let's give it to them. And I think that's just where it went, man. Red Storm exited.
Yeah. And so my theory, which you probably know since you've heard my other videos, is that I think at that point they moved to Div 3. A lot of other people think they're on some other game that isn't announced yet or whatever, but that's my theory. But to go back, I want to say that part of the problem was that, because, you know, they tried the Division 2 rogue system in 1.8. If you remember, when they did Rogue 2.0, they had you flag instead of just shooting. And they tried the new manhunt thing, and so they tested it in Division 1. And the problem is, people liked Rogue 2.0 in Division 1. I mean, well enough. There were some things that were bad about it, but they liked it well enough because the PvP in Division 1, the mechanics were good. So then they say they got positive reinforcement from that testing. They're like, okay, we can use this rogue system and bring it into Division 2 with our other concepts. The problem in Division 2, in my opinion, not everyone agrees, is that the gameplay sucks. For PvP, at least. I don't like how the armor system is compared to the health. There's no burst healing, which is a huge thing for this type of PvP, you know? And the movement isn't as bad of an issue, I don't think, but it's still not as good as Div 1 for strafing, that kind of stuff. So I think the combination of those three things, because if the gameplay of PvP was good in this game, then it wouldn't matter, you know, that we have small dark zones. It would still not be as fun as Division 1, but you would still have people in there, I think.
Yeah. Let me see. So the point where I knew something was up was, I believe it was Frederick Thylander. And that's where he was getting very vocal in State of the Games. My entire outlook on this is I 1,000,000% believe Julian Garrity or someone of his stature is playing Puppet Master, and they keep putting these different developers out in front of the community, trying to keep the community at bay. Because the second one of those developers say anything that they shouldn't have, they're gone. Every single one of them. Frederick, Chris Gansler. Dude, there's too many to count, to be honest. And it's to the point where now you're only seeing the same maybe 3 to 5 people on State of the Game. It's the same people. And it's probably because those are the same people that are only ones working on the game now. And you had this thing where I thoroughly believe that someone was watching them on Twitter, because I made a video, like I was saying earlier, around the same time you made yours, where I called it Dev Drama. And I was like, look guys, like Frederick just straight up said, we don't do PvP. If you have problems, talk to those people. Like straight up said that, like out of the gate in Twitter. And it was so abundantly obvious that Massive did not touch PvP at all, to the point where Frederick was getting comment after comment. Hey, what about PvP? Hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? And he just got mad one day and was like, look, we don't do PvP. If you got a problem, go talk to them. And no shit, within a week, that was the same week that Terry and whoever on Red Storm officially said on Twitter, we're not the guys that do PvP anymore. And it was the same exact thing. People were bugging Frederick over and over about PvP. He finally said, hey, we don't do it. That's Red Storm. And then Red Storm was like, hey, we're hearing you, but we're not working on Division 2 anymore. And from
to be fair,
point,
though, they did make some changes after Red Storm left. You remember that?
But only
I'm not saying they're major,
though.
but they... What? Good.
Only balancing, though, right?
Well, Red Storm left around TU6, because I remember that tweet was in... that tweet that Terry put out, I know what you're talking about, came a little bit after we ever heard from them again, right? In TU8, they did that mini Dark Sun revamp, where they got rid of normalization in the non-occupied ones. They got rid of the Thieves' Den. I think that was when that happened, and they did a bunch of those changes. I'm not saying it was major stuff, but they did do it after they left.
I thought that was all in the same thing, because they did...
Because the last time that Terry was ever on State of the Game was when they announced Team Elim in TU6.
Correct.
And that was like October, November
I see.
of 2019.
So... Oh, okay. No, see, that makes sense. So think of this like a car. Red Storm's driving the car, TU6, they throw the keys at Massive.
But yeah, I know it went to shit after they left because no one's working on it. I don't disagree with you. I was just pointing that out.
So that would make sense on why they took the Thieves' Den out and all that, because that was when Massive had control of it.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, let's get rid of the Thieves' Den, let's come up with something else, and let's normalize it, make them happy, and then we won't touch it anymore. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. And what I think has been happening recently that I was actually going to make a video on this week, I still might, is that, because like I was mentioning earlier, we know now they were testing PvP stuff in Div 1 before Div 2 was even announced, right, with the Rogue system in 1.8. And what I think now is that, like I said, I think there's a Division 3 coming. I think that the reason they're not even doing anything even to try and test right now in Div 2 is because they're just going to completely revamp and restructure what PvP is in Div 3. I don't think they're taking any inspiration from Div 2 because they know that it didn't really work at all,
Yeah. Man. It's sad. To, like, going over this kind of history, it's pretty sad. Because I like every morning after like breakfast, taking the kids to school, whatever, I'd come home and go to the Thieves Den. That was like my thing. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Thieves Den's in Thieves Den East, let's go. And then I'd just like run around, hit the little beacons, and then go into the Dark Zone. And as soon as they gave the keys over to Massive, they removed that. And like that was probably over a year ago now. I was getting easily a couple thousand views a day just doing Thieves Den runs.
Yeah.
And you completely kill that part of the community like as soon as you remove that out of the game.
So let me ask you,
And
did you ever think that, was there a point in time where you thought that Division 2, either the Dark Zone or the PvP as a whole, was more fun or better in Div 2 than it was in Div 1? Was there ever a point from Division 2's release?
that's another good one, man.
Because this is where I disagree with a lot of people, because a lot of people say that they thought PvP was super fun in year 1, and I've honestly never really enjoyed it that much the entire time,
No.
even though I still play it.
This week is the first week that I've actually voluntarily have gone into the Dark Zone by myself, just playing.
Yeah.
When the game first came out, I played the Dark Zone to get to level 50, and then that was it. Which took a couple hours if you were good. You can hit level 50 in a couple hours pretty easy.
Just do the landmarks.
And nah, man, the only fun I would get out of it was the Thieves Den.
Interesting.
And I didn't play Conflict until they normalized, or until they took out normalization. So that's when I heavily got into Conflict, like heavily.
So would you agree then that the mechanics in Division 1, the core game mechanics, were better for PvP than in Div 2?
Yeah, it's a lot smoother. The movement's different, obviously. The run and gun aspect is still there because I can play this game the exact same way I can play Div 1, believe it or not. I can still run and gun just as easily. The problem is it doesn't feel as smooth as the first one. In the first one, I could run, and even playing on console, I could still, it was still fluid, the movement, and it's not that fluid now. Now it's blocky. Now it's like if I don't turn fast enough,
because they tried to get rid of the strafing.
Right, and the movement's bad. It's really bad. I have no problem with strafing.
Yeah, me neither. The developers are the only ones who have a problem with it, and the PvE players, and that's, again, one of the pitfalls they fell into, I think.
Well, the problem, and that's where I'll get a little salty for these PvE kids, is that in Div 1, man, I was all about PvP. I didn't give a shit. I would take your shit, I'd cut your rope, I'd do whatever. I didn't care. And the PvE guys hated that. Because if a PvP player ran up on a PvE group in the Dark Zone, he or she could easily 1v3, 1v4 a whole group of PvE players. And that was because of the chicken dance. You could easily face tank one guy, chicken dance, face tank the next guy, chicken dance, face tank the next, and then the med kits were instant, and the booster hives were instant, to where you could keep healing yourself, keep chicken dancing, and kill everybody. And I loved it. There are several clips that I used to have on like my old Division 1 montages where I would easily 1v3, 1v4 groups. And it was just because they didn't have the movement down. You could tell, that's where people would call them robots. Oh man, you went up against some bots or whatever, And that's where I could understand back then, where it was, yeah, man, you're a bot. Like, you stood there and let me shoot you. Like, what the hell is your problem? I just chicken danced a circle around you. And that's where they were getting upset, is that they couldn't play like PvPers would, because PvPers would practice. They would 1v1. They would actually try to strafe. And
Yeah.
once you got it down, it was actually pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
So with Division 2, I feel that they killed that player gap for that
Exactly.
part.
The skill gap.
Because now anyone and their mom can jump on the game and run as fast as I can. Anyone in the game can strafe as fast as I can. It doesn't matter anymore. It's blocky. It's really slow.
And the fact that there's no burst healing to keep you alive, I think, is the even bigger issue.
Yeah. I mean,
because now you have armor regen, sure, but that's just, I don't know. I feel like this stuff now is a little bit more cheesy, but in Div 1, you had to be smart with your heal timing. You had talents like Crit Save, where it was if you waited until your last bit of health to use the medkit, then you got damage resistance, and then you were able to keep yourself going for longer. And there's no type of damage resistance with armor. It's all additive values, which makes armor builds annoying still, but they're, they have no value as far as being an actual tank for the group because it's all additive values. You can't get a talent that gives you a certain amount of damage resistance. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whereas if you stacked armor in Div 1, it gave you a % resistance.
Exactly. And it was more instant, where in Division 2, now you have an armor kit that takes, 3 seconds to activate. You have armor regen that takes 2 seconds to activate. You have even the healer hive. If you go back to like a reclaimer build in Division 1 where they had the healing station, it would basically keep you healed up instantly.
Yep.
Where the healing hive, it does the animation where it goes duke, and then it flies, and then it has to hit you in the back and splat, and then it heals you. And it's like, come on. You can't just heal me because I'm in there. And what that did is it made time to kill really quick in a way in Division 2, because you can't heal, you can't sustain damage. If you are getting shot, you're dead. It doesn't matter what armor you have. It doesn't matter how much armor regen you have. And in Division 1, it did matter. It really did. If you had a Nomad build, it really did matter. Because you could go from 0 to 100 real quick. And it was amazing.
And that's why I've never, really liked the PvP that much in Div 2. It's just because of those changes and that kind of stuff.
And I remember in Division 1, you even had, I believe it was, level 29? Wasn't that a thing? Or something
the
like
19
that?
Bracket, yeah.
Right, there
19
you go.
or 29, whatever.
Where you would purposely delete a character, upload a new character, and stay in that one level.
Get away from the gear sets.
Right, yeah. And they're doing something similar now. I had someone comment on one of my videos yesterday where they were saying all the YouTubers should restart a new character and stay at level 29 and just do everything level 29.
The problem is the landmarks in the DZ now give you regular XP, right? So it'd be pretty hard to not level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everything gives you XP in the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone...
Which is probably better overall, but...
The funny thing is, I could do one landmark in the Dark Zone and level up, where in Conflict I could play all day and night and never level up. It's insane, the differences. It's like one extreme to the next.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, so to answer your question, PvP, I would prefer Div 1. I think a month ago I played Last Stand, and I still love it. It's still a lot of fun.
I just got my first match of Last Stand this week. I've been trying ever since Div 2 came out, and I never got one until this week. But it was a fun experience.
It takes a while.
That's why I think the solution they need to go for is instead of they need to make the gameplay and the functionalities of the Dark Zone cater to the people who want to play it, so that they stick around and you can actually grow a Dark Zone base. But then don't make it so that the Dark Zone has, because personally I like the idea of the Dark Zone having exclusive stuff, but I understand that people who don't want to play it then feel, you know, they feel pretty shitty because they're like, I have to go in and, suffer getting killed over and over just to try and get something that's exclusive. What they should go for, however, and what I've suggested in my videos before, is that they just put incentives in, either whether they do a bigger Dark Zone in Div 3 or they do a PvP server, however they're going to do it. Put like higher XP multipliers on doing stuff in the Dark Zone. Put, better roles, like you could do maybe if you're doing open world, just an example, of course, you could do like challenging difficulty versus heroic, like that jump in loot quality. Put better quality stuff in Dark Zone, but don't make it exclusive so that people don't feel like they're forced to go in. They can, if they want to, take the lesser risk option, and it'll just take longer for them to get to their goal. Whereas if you're willing to take on a higher risk and go in the Dark Zone, you can get these better rewards, but again, that aren't exclusive.
Right.
I feel like that's the better way to go.
Their little way around it, what they did is when they introduced Season 1, they introduced the named item cache. And
in the season reward track, yeah.
And that will actually give you PvP exclusive named items.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people avoid the Dark Zone and just focus on that, because even in the global events, the leagues, and all the other activities within the season, they also give you named item caches.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
at this point they've got that stuff down for Div 2. They just don't have fun PvP. That's the problem.
What they've done is, ever since they got the keys to that car, they kind of parked it and then walked away.
Yeah.
Because the Thieves' Den audience completely got shut out because the PvE people were jealous that there was a secret vendor just for Thieves' Den.
Yeah.
So they completely took that out of the game, which killed even more of your dwindling PvP community. Because there was a lot of people that actually enjoyed the Thieves' Den, including myself. I thought it was cool. And I used to make a game out of it where I would do it solo, and I would try to get all the way to the Thieves' Den without having anyone like even notice me, like ninja style. And that part completely went to crap. So then they do the named item caches, where that completely negates the even purpose of going to the Dark Zone or PvPing, because now there's no exclusive anything.
Yeah.
And
there's no reason to play PvP because it's not fun.
Right. So now the only thing people do in the Dark Zone is either camp checkpoints or raid landmarks. And the only reason why they're raiding landmarks is to get DZ resources, because the DZ vendors will sell the DZ exclusive named items.
Yep.
So now you don't even have to farm the Dark Zone. Now you just have to have DZ resources and then wait for them to sell whatever it is you want, and then you're good to go.
Yep. Yeah, I think the focus definitely needs to be on gameplay instead of reasons people will want to go into the Dark Zone, for loot or for exclusive stuff, because I don't think that's ever worked out for them in the past.
I agree. And your whole thing where it's like, hey, even if it was like a 10% boost in attributes, you know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, there's no exclusive content. However, we know for a fact that if it's contaminated, it will have 10% higher attributes than normal gear at this difficulty. Something like that.
Exactly. Or just even a greater, or just even like a much greater chance of that happening. Because you could still make it so that you could get those better items in the open world, but just have it be like 25% chance in the open world versus 75% in the Dark Zone,
Right. Exactly.
And that way people want to take the risk.
What happened with the leveling system too, dude? Like, come on. Like,
what do you mean?
We
Which
went from 99 levels in the Dark Zone in Div 1 to 50. And not only that, but the DZ perks, like,
they suck.
They're so bad.
The one thing I will credit PvP in this game for that I think it did better than Div 1 was give you a lot of loot. Because every time you
Yeah.
rank up your thing, you get a cache, and every time you kill a regular rogue, I think, and the manhunts, you get items, you get caches. I've gone on plenty of manhunt runs where I have caches laying all over the floor of the entire Dark Zone. So I think in
Right.
that aspect, they did a good job of making sure PvP is worthwhile for loot. It's just, the rest of it isn't really there.
Well, the leveling up is insane. I know
Yeah,
people that are level, 3, 4, 5,000, and they
in
just
Shadewatch.
DZ. All they do is DZ.
Yeah,
It's insane.
yeah,
Um, and then there's people like me who did conflict all the time. So here's my philosophy on conflict. I prefer conflict over Division 2 DZ.
hmm
And here's why. One, there's no Thieves Den, and I'm still salty about that. They can go fuck themselves. I really did enjoy the Thieves Den. Two, I am sick of chasing people. Like,
yeah.
they will shoot you in the back and they will run 5 blocks and then send you a message and say, haha. Like, it's so ridiculous. And, like, there's zero PvP skill in the Dark Zone. It's
Yeah.
so easy to play cheese. It's so easy to corner somebody, shoot them in the back. It's so easy to run away and checkpoint camp. Like, that's all it is.
That's
Where
why my favorite aspect is to go rogue myself and go manhunt and have people come to you because then they're playing on your terms.
Correct. That
Yeah,
and what I like to do is go manhunt and go into the middle of the map, and then
yeah.
be like, "Hey, come to me.
hmm
Like you can see where I ping. Just come follow me." Now, my thing about conflict is, well, skirmish in particular, is that it's non-stop PvP,
Yeah.
non-stop. I can sit there and I can make an all red build, run and gun, and have the time of my life. And it's nonstop. Matchmaking is great. It puts you. Sometimes I don't even have a matchmaking time. I'll hit X and all of a sudden I'm in a game. Boom. And a lot of the times I'll do it by myself. I'll solo queue because you get into different matches with a whole bunch of different people, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My other thing about conflict is, as a content creator, it's easier to make clips because it's non-stop PvP. So
Right.
in one game, I could get 12 kills, and I could show you how the build reacts, how it works in PvP. And what people don't understand is you can't do that in the Dark Zone. You're not going to
hmm
have 12 kills in 5 minutes in the Dark Zone. Ever. Unless you're sitting there camping a checkpoint. And no one wants to watch you camp a checkpoint.
Yeah.
Like, that's
sure.
the worst thing ever. Like, I love when people talk crap and then they're like, we'll go into the Dark Zone. And it's like, dude, like, I guarantee it's going to be one of three outcomes. Either I'm going to farm your ass and you're going to leave the lobby salty, or you're going to camp a checkpoint and play cheese. Like, there's no real in between.
Yeah.
And the way the DZ community is already pretty toxic, throwing toxicity into that just makes people not want to ever do it. So
Yeah.
I like playing conflict because that I don't have to fight for kills. I can play with random people and I can show them how to play. I can show them the routes I run, show them, how I do things. Sometimes I'll go 5-5, and then other times I'll go, 10-1. And it's just a lot more fun. I can just be me, play my play style, play as aggressive as I want. Because when you
Yeah.
play in teams, you have to actually strategize. All right, guys, we're going to run to the right. We're going to do this. Oh, hey, help this guy over here. When I'm solo, I just play me. I just run and gun, do my thing. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Thoroughly enjoy it. But
That's good.
after talking to Johan about it and all the problems with the leveling up with conflict and shade levels, I'm just completely stopping playing. I'm gonna stop playing conflict and just stick to Dark Zones because I'm not getting my watch maxed out, and there's no sense of farming it now that I'm max level because you're not
Right.
really getting anything out of it. Like, The conflict caches are okay, but the rogue caches, those manhunt caches, are way better.
So what did Johan say? I'm curious. What was your conversation?
I was just explaining that my frustrations with conflict, now that I have reached max level on every character, my frustrations as a player, because it's quite annoying knowing that they said that the XP would carry over to your watch level, but they never scaled the XP correctly. So, like, even just adding a 0 to the XP. So instead of getting 300, to 3,000 XP, maybe you get 3,000 to 30,000 XP. Like, that alone would help level up your watch. But the fact that, you could play team elimination for 35 minutes, and after the 35 minutes, you only have 500 XP. Like, it's such a waste. Where I could do one landmark in 5 minutes in the Dark Zone by myself and get 300,000 XP. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Like, as a developer,
did he just follow the narrative and say they're not really making changes, or?
No. He expressed his understanding of the problem. He told me that it would be addressed in one way or another and looked at, because I basically dumbed it down and said, look, I've played over 1,000 games in Conflict, and I've never leveled up, ever, watch level. Not once. I average get between 1,000 and maybe 3,000 XP a game, and it cost, 700,000 to get a level in my shade level.
Yeah.
So just by doing the math right there, I would have to play hundreds of games straight to get one level. It makes zero sense. As a developer, as a player, as anything involved in the game, it's just common sense. That isn't right. And he agreed. He agreed that that doesn't make sense, and he told me that they would, quote unquote, take a look at it. But he didn't play it down like Yannick and them do. He didn't do any of that. He actually expressed concern about it and talked to me about it, where I feel if it was Yannick or Hamish or any of them, they would say, there's nothing I can tell you at this time about PvP or some crap, some underlying default statement where they're like, there's nothing on PvP right now, but stay tuned. We'll let you know. Crap. I will say this, though. I thoroughly believe that if any of the developers say anything out of line or there's any negativity at all surrounding them, that they are immediately nixed from the public eye within the Division 2. Clear example is Chris Gansler. Clear example. There was a little bit of tension on Twitter with him, and within not even 2 weeks, he was out. It wasn't even 2 weeks. And I'll admit it, I called him a jerk on their Twitter page, and it actually caught a lot of traction because he was being a jerk to me, and I told him. And it's looking as if any of those developers have a lip on them, or they respond in a negative fashion in any way, shape, or form, it's like, hey, get out of here. Like, the community is already touchy as it is. So if you add any sort of negativity to that, get out kind of deal. And the same kind of went with Frederick Thylander after his tweets. He kind of just disappeared. It's
The one
just
thing
seeming
I'll
like
say
a
is that I
trend.
think I don't disagree with you. I think that is very real. But also it's the same thing with Red Storm. It's not like they packed their bags and said we're quitting. It's all corporate and Ubisoft that like dictates where these people go. I think
Right.
Frederick, it's there's been discussion of what he's actually working on. Some people think he went to the Avatar game. You know, that Massive's also making that's possible.
Right. Yep.
Um, One example that where that didn't happen, but someone still exited, and I think that's interesting, is Drew. You remember Drew from around Warlords?
Yep. I remember.
He was super nice, and he's
Super
just
cool.
gone. We never saw him again. So I
Um.
think, and he's one of the directors as well. He's like the co-game director, I think, along with Matthias.
Yeah. Whenever I say like they left or got pushed out, it's just the Division Two just as a whole.
Yeah, yeah,
Um. I completely think that they were pushed to bigger and better projects or pushed to something else just to get them out of the limelight of the Division 2. Because one, they're probably under contracts, so you can't just let people go like that. And two,
Well,
they
yeah,
probably
no,
have
I
so
don't think
many
they were fired.
projects and a lack of developers. I'm sure that they need all hands on deck for certain projects.
Hmm.
But I thoroughly believe that there will be a Division 3 as well.
Yeah,
There's there's pretty much no hiding it. Um,
they're following all the same tracks that they did on Div One. So
dude, it's so much deja vu. It's not even funny.
yeah,
To the point where it's like, oh hey, they're gonna like Gamey Daddy. Gamey Daddy, he called it months ago. He was like, this is following the exact same trends. They're doing this, this, and this. They're going to give us PvE modes to make the PvE community happy. They're going to give them new gear. And then when that cools down, they're going to give them an optimization station and then release Division 3. And
yeah,
then months later, it's all coming true. It's like, hey, here's a new PvE game mode. All right, here's a new update to that game mode. Okay, you got that. All right, well, here's skill builds for PvE. And here's more weapons for your PvE builds.
yeah.
And there is absolutely nothing that is PvP even related in any of the new stuff they are releasing.
Yeah.
And it's blatantly obvious to the point where now I feel compelled to bring up PvP every time they post anything on Twitter because it's like so blatantly obvious that they're not touching PvP. It's like, please just tell me something. Like, just tell me, wait a couple months. Just tell me that there is something happening in PvP because it is unbelievable the amount of time and effort they put into PvE, and they haven't even mentioned PvP for months and months.
I don't think they
And
will do anything.
it's mind blowing, to be honest. Because
Yeah,
how are you supposed to rebound as a business? How are you supposed to rebound and build up hype for the Division 3? How? Like
I
the
think people will get it anyway. People say they won't until the beta comes around and then you try it. Some people won't for sure, but I still think even if they were
yeah,
to release it, next week, people would buy it.
my I think the same. Yes, there's a lot of diehard
Yeah.
people out there, but like Division 1, perfect game model where, like I was saying earlier, the developers were on a high note. It was like, yo, they love us right now. Like, what else do they want? Let's just give them everything they want. And
Yeah, they
what,
ended good on 1.8 for sure.
right, and what they, I guess they were just listening to the wrong people at the time, and they were just catering too much to one demographic to where the other demographics left. And this is such a unique game and a unique style that they will have no problem getting people to come play it.
Yeah.
But I just think the hype, like, dude, I remember seeing Terry on E3 talking about the Division 2 with like a fresh haircut, and he was like all smiling, happy and shit. Like, it was abundantly clear, like, everyone was happy. And now it's like doom and gloom. Every time there's a state of the game, you read the comments, they're all negative. Sometimes their state of the game videos on YouTube get more dislikes than they do likes. It's
Yeah.
just, it's really sad, the state of morale, I guess you could say, surrounding this game. Because a lot of people are happy about the PvE part, but the PvE part was never a problem, and it's never been a problem. And even in Division 1, it wasn't a problem. All we would do is play PvE to PvP. I think that
Exactly.
used to be like the motto. It used to be
I
I
PvP to
PvE,
get better stuff for PvP.
right? Like I PvE to PvP.
I do
And
think the
once,
PvE is better in Div 2 than Div 1. I think they innovated that and evoluted. What am I trying to say? Evolved that in the right way.
yeah, there you go. The execution of the raids were so poor, and
But you don't like the
uh,
raids?
the lack of exclusive, like, there's no shiny, like, thing. They should have just went with incursions and did exclusive gear to the incursions like they did in Div 1, because nobody cares for these raids. There's maybe 10 or 20 clans total out of the 80,000 clans that are on Xbox that even do raids.
Right.
It's just not like
Long term,
so
it didn't pan out. I'm a big fan of them because I think they're a lot of fun. But I see what you mean that they didn't have the longevity.
as a as a fanboy of this game franchise, I love the raids. I think when it comes to team synergy and communication, I think the raids are A1 bar none. Like, they're top tier, but there is no replayability at all.
Sure. Yeah. Once you
Um,
get the exotic.
like, I'm not gonna throw their names under the bus; they'll know it. But I had two content creators that joined my clan, and we did dark hours almost daily, and they were one of those people, both of them, where they got the eagle bearer and then jumped.
Yeah.
They were like, "All right, thanks, peace," and they never played with us ever again. Came up with some reason, they left the clan, they stopped playing altogether, and it was like, wow. And
Yeah.
it became a common trend where I would get people join my clan, and they're like, "Hey, let's do a raid run," and we'd get them the eagle bear, and then all of a sudden I'd have 49 people in my clan and not 50, and it's like,
Yeah.
what? And then so then the next raid came along, and we were like, okay, what's so special about this one? All right, you get a pistol, and you get the, what's it, a rifle, I believe, assault rifle,
The Ravenous, yeah.
and neither one of which are are meta, neither one of them, and the developers kind of took a step back after the eagle bearer because of what they did to the eagle bearer. Because the eagle bearer was pretty much meta the second it was released. It was like,
Yeah.
dude, let's raid until we get that eagle bearer. The second all of us get it, we are good to go. Let's do it. And that went to the point where it got nerfed, all that controversy, and then this next raid came out, Iron Horse, and the exotics underperform. They have stated several times now that exotics are not supposed to be overpowered. They're supposed to just make you play in a different playstyle, which is fine. I get it. But that makes it to where it's not really sought after, because I can play the game just fine without it.
Yeah.
And then they lock the chest piece and backpack to, what's that, Foundry Bulwark and Future Initiative. And you don't need either one of those, really. I mean, you can make a perfect shield build without the chest piece. you can make a perfect healer build without the chest piece. You don't really need those exclusives. And with the absence of matchmaking, there is zero reason to raid. Absolutely zero. And that completely kills the fun out of it. So I think they're done with raids, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's another one.
And they said we would have 3 or 4. Like, way back when they were talking about raids. They specifically
I only remember them
said
ever promising the 2.
that we would have multiple raids. Well, it was supposed to be 2 within that first year.
Right, yeah, the Iron Horse was supposed to come in TU6 originally.
Right.
And didn't come until TU10.
And then they delayed it 6 months, and then no one played it.
So here's the one thing that I am not sure about. It's been discussed a lot lately. What do you think the chances are we get another expansion in March before Div 3? Because a lot of people say that they're convinced there's going to be another one. You even have people like, you've seen, I don't know how you pronounce his name. It's like Datifu, I guess, on YouTube.
Right.
He does a lot of, so he says he has sources claiming there is going to be another expansion before Div 3. And I'm on the fence. I don't know which way it's going to go.
There will be.
You think there will be?
They can't. So I'm trying to stress this as much as I can. As a business, you cannot go to the next project without some sort of hype, especially if you're continuing a franchise. Like, you can't just say, all right, guys, Division 3's coming in a year. See you then. Peace.
I mean, that's what they did with Div 1, you know. Because 1.8 came out at the same time that TU12 is going to come out. Has the same stuff like the optimization station. Obviously, it doesn't have the content, and that's a big thing. But if you're looking at the patterns, it's kind of the same deal, which is why I'm not convinced fully. But I mean, I think it's very well possible. But
they had already released the news that Div 2 was going to drop before the optimization station.
No, that came in March. Optimization was TU8 in that December, and then that following March is when they announced Div 2. Because they did it on State of the Game on the anniversary. I remember that, so I was watching it.
Right, because I made my channel a month after that. So I had my channel a whole year before Div 2 came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the optimization station was not in the game then.
It was.
Was it?
You can, yeah, because here I'll look it up. Because 1.8 was before that, and it came with 1.8 and 1.8 release. Let's see.
There's so many damn updates.
I know. Division 1 1.8 release date was December 5th of 2017, and then Division 2 announcement date was March 9th, 2018. So 4 months after.
Let's see.
But to your point, you're right, they were still on a high from 1.8 when they announced it. But
so,
it came out.
So they announced... Alright, well, I'm about to... So they announced Division 2 March of 2018, right?
Yeah. And 1.8 came out 4 months.
Negative, sir. 1.8 and Resistance came out December 2017. 1.8.1 came out April 2018. 1.8.2 came out June 2018.
Optimization came with the first one, though. It came with the main update.
It came with the Resistance?
Yep.
Boom, boom, boom.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a stickler of details,
a new
but
safe house, a new dynamic spawning, skirmish, PvP, Rogue 2.0. There it is, optimization station. So that's where... Right, okay. So they added content after announcing, but it wasn't anything like really big.
it was those little legendary missions, and they did the shields for Div 2. You remember those?
The shields, that's right. That's right. So that's what it was. That's what held us over for that last year.
Yeah, and so we don't know what's coming next year. We don't
That's
know anything
right.
after Season 4 right now.
Because the last year of Division 2, what we did is we maxed out all of our gear, we played the global events, and then we did the shields. That's right.
Yep.
Thank you. I like it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to
No, dude, no. It was good.
uproot your...
I remembered something that I did not previously remember.
So yeah,
That's
that's the only reason that I'm not fully convinced that there's going to be another expansion is because if you look at the trend, it would be they released 2.12 same time frame that 1.8 came out, and then they'd be done. The only difference is there's no content with 2.12. It's just quality of life stuff mainly. You know, the optimization, the mod sorting, the mask showing. There's not a whole lot of actual content. Well, they are getting the event, the nightmare event that they haven't talked about yet, but.
So with that being said, you think it's done?
No, I'm not convinced either way. That's why I was asking your opinion. I think there very well could be another expansion. I'm just not fully convinced of it yet.
Excuse me. Here's my thought. You can take
But
it.
if there, sorry, let me just add on. If there is one, I think if they do have an expansion, then that'll be the last thing. That'll be the last major thing.
Yes, that's a fact.
Yeah.
I personally think it could be all PvP balancing and related things.
As in what they do in year 3, or what do you mean?
Yes.
You mean with that expansion? Okay.
No real expansion. I think they're just going to add to PvP. Because
very possibly, yeah.
No Dark Zone. I'm not talking about Dark Zones. I'm specifically only saying new maps. And reason for that is they can recycle their own content and give us 3 new maps right off the bat. They can give us a DZ South, East, and West map. So in Division 1 Last Stand, all they did is they took a 4x4 block radius of the Dark Zone and they made a map. That's all they did. Yeah. And you can easily do that again. That would be the easiest way for them to progress. I mean, they could even bring Last Stand back and just say, hey guys, we have Last Stand. However, it's only 3 maps. DZ South, East, and West, and that's it. And I guarantee people would play it every day.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing I can think that they could do that wouldn't break the bank, if you will.
Mm-hmm. If there's not an expansion, you mean?
I don't think there is an expansion at all.
Yeah. Well, according to DA there is, but we'll see. According to his sources, which I still find that curious how he can get those interviews, but who knows if they're legit.
I'll talk. I'm in talks of having him on the podcast as well, so I'm gonna.
That's gonna be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him about that. But as far as expanding, I don't think they are because of the amount of push that they did the summit. I think the summit was their last hoorah for PvE.
Possibly, yeah.
I think they're done because they gave you everything you need. They gave you 100 floors that you can play on any difficulty, any time of the day.
And your own target loot.
With your own targeted loot. And not only that, but you'll be able to fast travel back to the lobby and optimize your gear.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. That's end of game. You're done. As soon as you get your builds that are maxed out, there is no more playing, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I'm thinking that year 2 was their last hoorah for PvE. It was, hey, we're going to give you everything you want and more. And not only that, we'll give you one last thing for Kinley College. And I guarantee it's going to be Hunter related. And that'll be that. And so my philosophy is they're going to announce Division 3, and then they will only do PvE changes. They'll make tweaks here and there to different, game of life, But I think it'll
Do
be
some shields.
yeah. They'll do shields for the PvE lovers, and then the rest will just be PvP stuff. Even if it's PvP balancing, they could do that. They could bring back Last Stand. They could even just do the Dark Zone maps, like I said, and then just incorporate that into Conflict. They don't even have to make Last Stand. Like, even if they just incorporated that into Conflict, that would give you 3 new maps, and that's already nearly doubling your number of maps. But I think that's it, man. I think they're just putting all their chips in for Div 3 because the PvP community was so upset with them that they gave up on that. They made the PvE people happy, and then they're going to try to make the PvP happy again right before releasing Div 3.
See.
And then that'll build the hype, and then there you go. And then we're off to wherever. London.
Yeah, somewhere.
I don't know. If you had to guess where Div 3's going, where would you guess?
I have a much less firm idea on the city, but I think for sure it's going to be either fall or winter. I can tell you that. My ideal thing would be, I mean, the problem is I've never been to any of these, major East Coast cities, but I would say maybe Boston or Chicago or somewhere like that. I'd love to see an overseas one in France or London. I don't know if it works with the story since Division is US based. People said that before, but I'd love to see Paris or something like that. Be cool.
It is.
But I think we need the winter back.
Well, because the Division is US people. Like the Division is
That's what
US.
I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
So, right. Yeah.
Maybe. That's not me saying that. People have said that before in my comments and stuff, and I don't disagree with them. That makes sense. I just don't know what they would do.
I agree with them completely. The only thing I could think of is after Fei Lao, there's basically going to be no more, U.S.-based rogues or anything, and then that's where we go international.
Well, have you seen I won't spoil it, but have you seen the leaks for what's supposed to happen at the end of Season 4?
No, man, no. I have not.
I won't spoil it then.
I don't...
Because that's
dude,
the whole thing that leads into the expansion. What?
I said I don't care if you spoil it or not. You talking about Fei Lao?
Alright, so spoiler warning for anyone watching this.
All
If
right,
you don't want to
spoiler
know
alert.
the leaks that have come out for seasons, then get off. Yeah, so leaks came out, when was that? TU10 PTS, that it called what was going to happen in Season 2 and 3, and so far everything has been true, and it even called the Summit back then. So pretty much it's confirmed to be true. So what it says happens at the end of Season 4 in that mission is that we don't kill Fei Lao. Or I guess that's not fully, it was kind of muddy on what happened there, but basically the mission, the final manhunt mission for her is that we show up to Camp White Oak, that's where it's going to be, because Fei Lao is meeting with, you remember the President Ellis, who escaped from there?
Right.
Way back in Year 1. So apparently she calls a meeting with him at Camp White Oak. We go there to try and get him back and take her down, and then she kills him and blames it on us, and then it's presumed that she doesn't die and she escapes. So now the Division has been flagged rogue for killing the President, because even though he's a traitor, we're still supposedly, agents of the U.S. government. And so now we've supposedly betrayed the country. And then the question is, what happens there? And so that mission is going to come out at the end of February, which is why, or sometime in February, which is why I'm not convinced that there's not an expansion coming, because if you remember, they announced Warlords in February, 1 month before it came out. So if that manhunt mission ends, and then they say, the new expansion is going to be, we're now the rogues, and we have to try and
clear our name.
Clear our name. Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
Or they could say that that's the story for Div 3. That's why I don't know either way where that's going to go, but those are the leaks. Pretty exciting. Should be fun. Yeah.
That does make sense, so.
Yeah.
I'm sold. Take all my money.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Oh, hell yeah. I don't know, man. I wish they would do... I wish the whole Fei Lao thing would die and that story would finish, and then the next game would focus on hunters. Like,
yeah, it'd be cool.
Tracking down hunters, trying to figure out their origin, figure out who's their leader, if they even have a leader, I think that
Well, part of the story for this season, have you seen that so far in the Manhunt missions, there have been like hunters popping up?
yeah, left and right to the point where people are thinking the whole nightmare thing is going to be all hunter related as well.
Yeah. So apparently in the mission that comes out, was it tomorrow actually? The Barden Schaefer mission, according to these leaks again, is that there's going to be a hunter in there, and it's kind of alluded to that the hunters are working for the Black Tusk.
Interesting. Huh.
So I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Well, maybe they'll do the whole hunter lore at the end of this game then.
Possibly, yeah.
Did you ever did you ever read that book? They made a Division book. Well, I think two
I read the
books
first
now.
one. Actually, I'm looking at the second one right now. It's on my little table here, but I have not fully read that one yet, no.
Yeah.
The first one was good, though. The New York Collapse. Did you read
It
that one?
was good with Amanda Waller. Was it Amanda Waller? I forget.
That's Batman, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember.
April.
April. There you go.
Kelleher.
Kelleher. There you go. Yeah, I remember that, and it was
That was a good
following
book.
her diary or whatever.
Yeah.
It was
The interesting, like, take on you to skip around the pages and all that. It's
I'm
cool.
really I'm really into lore and like background stories and like figuring out the whole universe kind of deal. It's very interesting. Destiny did a really good job with that with the first game. The second
Yeah.
game, it started off that way, but then they kind of just drifted off. Like different developers just took over and didn't know what to do with the story or something. But
Yeah.
but the Divisions had a pretty solid lore. I don't know if you know who NGN Gaming is.
Yeah, I've watched this stuff before.
Yeah, he does amazing lore videos and like background stories. He's been doing it since Division 1. I've been a huge fan of his. Supposed to be talking to him soon too. It's going to be a good episode as well.
Nice. Yeah, it's
But
going to
yeah,
be cool
man.
to watch all this.
What else? Now that we're hitting the last stride of this this podcast, what's another topic that piques your interest?
Oh, man. About anything or division or...
I don't care, man. The floor's yours.
Oh, boy.
Because we've already talked about PvE, PvP, Division 3.
Right.
We've pretty much checked all the boxes.
Here's one I'll pitch you, division related.
Ooh,
You might have
and
heard me
then I've
mention in
got
my
something
videos.
to pitch you too. All right, cool.
Yeah?
Last two
Okay.
things, and then we're done. All right, what
All
is
right. I've said for a few months now, or maybe, I don't know when I first said it, in my videos that if they really want Div 3 to be successful, what they should do is release an updated survival as a standalone side component. Kind of like how Warzone is to Call of Duty.
right?
Make it free to play for anyone who wants to download it, because everyone loves survival, pretty much. And if they could actually make it a little bit more refined, like have random loot spawns, have some other cool stuff, but still make it, not totally Battle Royale, but make it its own unique thing, then people would love it. And if they actually had next-gen stuff, so they could have like 100 players, 50 or 100 players, however many, in the entire map of Div 3, and make it a free-to-play thing, and then if you don't own the main game, maybe you just get cosmetics, or you can buy cosmetics, but then if you do own the main game and you want to play it, then you get caches for your character and whatnot.
Nice.
I feel like that would be immensely successful. I don't know.
That would be amazing because survival was the first battle royale type game. You started off with nothing. You started off randomly throughout the map. You had to survive, get your gear, upgrade, and then go into the dark zone and fight. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that
And if
would
it was
be a
free,
great idea.
people would do it. Because some people didn't buy it in Div 1 because it was $15,
Right. Yep. Because
But
it
if
was
it
a
was
full
free-
expansion. Yep. That's right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would like that. Even like, big time streamers, if it was good enough, you could see
Easily.
Shroud, Dr.
Yeah.
Disrespect trying it out.
Easily.
Get a ton of traffic for Div 3.
Especially if it was free, like you said, and all that. Dude, that's a winner right there. That's a great idea.
What was your pitch?
Mine wasn't a pitch like that. I mean, you completely killed it. I don't even have a real pitch. I was just about to ask you some controversy questions surrounding the Division 2.
Okay, go for it.
All right, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I don't know. A lot of your community might be split.
Uh-oh.
Okay. What is your take on the Eclipse Protocol backpack?
I think it should only work with the 4-piece.
Okay, all right.
That's my view. Because everything else does. I don't think that it's intended to work like that. They haven't addressed it, but I think it's an oversight.
Well, hold on. Hold on, Bob. Who would win, Bob, between a hurricane and Coach Ditka? No, I'm just playing. Anyways, the thing is, you gotta hold your horses there. Not only did they address it and say it works as intended, not only did they do that,
I haven't been keeping up as much lately, so
they straight up spotlighted that shit in a state of the game. They showed it. They even alluded to, hey, you can use it by itself, and then they buffed it by 100%.
Are you talking about they said all that stuff when it first came out?
No, when they buffed
when did they? No, I know about the buff. I'm saying whenever you just mentioned that they said it could work as intended. When was that?
This was all when they were talking about buffing it. So Eclipse Protocol was already out. No one was using it. And
so for TU11, I think that was when they buffed it, right?
It might have been TU10. It was a couple patches ago. But it's just now caught spotlight because of the Ridgeway's pride.
Because of Ridgeway, yeah.
Because me and a few others, we were running it with Trauma for the longest time. Because it's been that way since it was released.
Yeah, but, it was just never as much of an issue because Ridgeway didn't exist.
Exactly. And that and Trauma has a huge cooldown. So you couldn't really take advantage of it because Trauma had a cooldown. Now, my thing is I'm not sure the exact episode. I wish I had somebody, like, some sort of, like, spot checker or whatever to be in the podcast. But there is a state of the game, I swear to you, where they announced that they are buffing the Eclipse Protocol bag, and they even showcased it, and the developer straight up said, we are buffing it from 15% to 30%, and then he does this little, like, wink, and he says, you guys know that chess pieces and backpacks have talents that are always active. And he straight up, like, threw that out there and was hoping someone would catch it. And no one caught it. So that patch, they buffed Eclipse Protocol, and that's when I started really using it with Trauma, because I was like, dude, amplified damage all day. Because we used to run Trauma with Wicked, and this completely outshines Wicked in every sense of the word. Now, my thing is the developer said it works as intended. They even buffed it, and then they showcased it. So
part of the reason they buffed it was because they nerfed the inherent way that the 4-piece works, you know?
Correct.
Because they reduced the range and all that.
Yeah, so they were trying to balance Eclipse.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they did this, buffed it, reminded people that you could use things by itself. And then
I didn't catch them saying that, so that's
the very next big update was Ridgeway's Pride.
Yeah.
So it was like a slam dunk. Kind of like what they're doing with skill builds. So they came out with these gear sets that are skill related. But they really didn't have anything to help them out. So now what they're doing is they're tweaking the skills, make sure that they are...
Pick up the turret.
Yep, and then they are giving you more exotics that go hand in hand with the skills. And they're giving you another brand set bonus to help you with skills. So they did a whole status effect thing for a couple months, and now they're doing a whole skill build thing for a couple months. Because before that, they did armor regen and armor. So they're just going down the pipeline.
Yeah.
They don't touch damage stuff because they do little tweaks to time to kill here and there. They can fix that very easily. So now they're just doing focus on all the other ones to try to drag it along.
Yeah.
But as far as the Eclipse thing, they knew what the hell they were doing. And they know that that's the only backpack that you can exploit like that. So, in my opinion, they've said it works as intended. It's out there. Anybody can use it. Like, there's not a real problem. I mean, you can run a hazard build, and it would not be a problem at all. Because if they can't get you on a status, they can't get that damage. So,
right.
I mean, there's ways around it.
To be honest, I haven't been able to play much PvP or much at all lately, so I haven't experienced it a ton. So, if you say it's not that much of a problem, then I don't.
Well, when I say it's not a problem, I mean I don't see it as an exploit.
No, I don't think it's an exploit either. But people know that I'm not afraid to say something should get nerfed. So if it is like the best in slot thing to use and it's like overshining everything else, then I'm going to say it should get nerfed. But I haven't played enough probably to make a clear judgment on that.
I'll tell you right now, it is best in slot if you are using a status build.
Right. Well, and if you're using Ridgeway, Eclipse backpack, and a SMG with Sadist, I can imagine that's just deletes people.
It does.
So.
Well, what people are doing and what I do is...
Or Lady Death or whatever.
Lady Death, because you get the amplified damage from the backpack and the weapon. And then you get the status from the chest piece. So then... Basically, you can run a best in slot build, or what I call a copy and paste build, where Ridgeway's is best in slot to go with your Eclipse bag, which is best in slot to go with your contractor gloves, your Fox's Prayer knee pads, and then you run one Walker Harris for the weapon damage, and then you run a weapon specific, and that's it.
Yep.
You're done. That way you get
There's
all
more
the
reason why
multiplicative...
Div 2's PvP is so unbalanced.
Right. Well, so part of that is because of YouTubers, to be honest. Because a lot of people used to run Negotiator's Dilemma hybrids, you remember? And then people like Wids and like Mutant Cowboy and a few others, where they go through like piece by piece why this is best in slot and this isn't. It really shows the community like, you could run this and this, but if you run contractor gloves with Fox's Prayer knee pads, you get two different types of multiplicative damage while you're shooting a target. And
well, you know what I think makes it worse, and it wouldn't be as bad if there was burst healing for yourself. Because you have all these things that give you tons of damage, but then there's no way to counter it because you're just dead instantly. That's the problem, I think. In Division 1, you had OP things, but you had what are they called? First aid, self-heal, and the instant med kit, and it wasn't as much of an issue. So that's the biggest issue, I think.
Do you think they could change that in year 3 and that would balance PvP?
It would certainly make it better.
Like,
but I still think
just
the
for
armor
instance,
system isn't as
good. I'm sorry. Just for instance, just the armor kit. What if they just made the armor kit instant?
It would make things better, I think.
But you're thinking they need to overhaul armor.
Yeah, I think in Div 3 they should scrap it. Because there's no... Well, what's the point of even... I don't understand why they did it in the first place. Because you get to see how much armor people have, which is nice. When you look at an opponent, you can tell if they're a more tanky or squishier person, right? And that's nice. But they could just do that in health. You could just have their health segments be in little bits, and you could see how much. Because the whole thing with having armor and then your tiny health segment that doesn't help you at all, in year 1 it made sense at least because you had talents that affected your health, but now it's just useless. Correct. And I think it's just an extra system that makes things more complicated than they need to be. Because it's not for realism. Because Division 2 isn't a very realistic game. So if that's the whole point of them adding armor, then I think that's kind of stupid. But because I think if they just went back, because even the animation where you get your armor broken, if you're trying to face tank someone, that's super distracting to try and keep shooting. I mean, you're gonna die right away because health doesn't really help you at all. But yeah, I
Right,
don't know. I
and
don't think armor is
I
very useful.
I do agree with what you're saying because I remember the whole berserk clutch thing, like I mentioned. You would have to
Yeah.
stack into health because you were running around with only health,
Hmm.
and it actually made it like very viable because you would heal yourself and get all that damage. Um,
Yeah. But now there's
yeah,
nothing.
well, so what I'm thinking is if obviously they don't have the development power to do anything that drastic. I would think if you just made the armor kits instant and left everything else alone, that would balance the time to kill just enough to where
Yeah.
there's so many times where I'll be a half a block away, someone will snipe me, I'll sit behind a car, try to heal up, and then by the time I heal up, they're right next to me.
Yeah, and they just get you.
That should not be a thing.
I'll say that I think it would be a good change, but at the same time, I can't guarantee that that wouldn't then break some other talent combination. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think they would do something
Oh,
that drastic without
well,
making a new game, because then you think about it, you can do that instantly, and then maybe that with armor regen is then too powerful, and then they have to remove or significantly nerf armor regen,
true.
or then efficient becomes super OP for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So I think it'd be good, but I can't say that it would not break PvP in some other way.
Not only that, but the system corruption where you hit it and you get a
Exactly.
instant bonus. Yep, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
So it would open a whole new can of worms, even if it would make the core PvP bitter.
so they've kind of put themselves in a corner where it's like,
With poor gameplay and that they
yeah,
can't change.
yeah, where it's like we
Yeah.
can't change it because if we change one aspect, we have to change all the aspects.
Yeah. That's why I
Yeah,
think they need a fresh start with Div 3. People are
that's
like, they should
crazy.
continue Div 2, and I'm like, make a new game, please.
I love how year two is like the year of multiplicative damage. I thought that was
I know,
hilarious.
yeah.
Where they got rid of things like clutch and berserk, combos, and then they went with intimidate and adrenaline rush. And it's like, really? Like you went
I just think
from
they need to simplify things so much. Like, imagine if instead of one of the biggest problems with Year 2 and Gear 2.0 is that you can get so much crit. Remember how hard it was to make a crit AR build in Div 1?
yep,
It's because there wasn't that many sources. They need to make it in Div 3 so that on your, let's say, like, only masks and holsters and gloves can get crit chance, like it was in Div 1. But then you get small amounts. You could roll, I don't know, 6% on each of those if you
yeah,
wanted that max. But then in the same slot as crit chance, maybe there's another super worthwhile stat, like, I don't know. For example, let's just say healing power, if that was something. You know what I mean? So you have to make a big choice if you want crit or you want this. But if you don't, if you take the crit, then you're going to miss out on this. And if you take the other thing, you're going to take a hit on crit. Because I think now there's too many ways to get all these different things, and it just makes it build making kind of boring, you know?
yeah, yeah.
But
I agree. I mean,
that's my 2 cents.
there's probably 5 builds that I just cycle through over and over.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
I'll tweak them here and there with different attributes, but for the most part, I mean it's the
They don't
same
change.
it's the same template. I
Yeah,
mean, if you're not like I just said, if you're not running best in slot or you're not running multiplicative damage in some way, you're just hurting yourself.
yeah,
Like it's to the point now where they've stressed so hard on the multiplicative damage that if you don't run it, you're at a disadvantage.
yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've run Conflict or the Dark Zone and I've seen Coyote's Mask, Intimidate, Adrenaline Rush with some random holster, Fox's Prayer knee pads, and Contractor's Gloves. It's the exact
Yeah.
same build. It's just recycled over and over and
And
over and over.
it doesn't make sense to me why they need to have additive and multiplicative damage. Like, why not just simplify it and make one?
Because I
Unless
think a
there's something I'm not
different
understanding, but
I think a different developer did it, man. To be honest, I think one developer because you remember Gear 2.0, that's where they
Mhm.
changed it all. So whoever worked on Gear 2.0 was
well, they had
not
multiplicative damage before Gear 2.0. It was in Div 1 even. You remember?
but it wasn't as prominent.
No, no.
Like nowhere near as bad as what it is now. Now it's like you know exactly what to use.
Yeah.
Because you can stack so much multiplicative damage that it's hard to ignore. That's why you have tank builds that run the exact same gear pieces as DPS builds. Because now you can do amplified damage and be a tank. And it's just like it completely it completely makes this tunnel vision for PvP, because it's like if you are outside of that tunnel, you are not doing you're not good enough. However, if you're doing what's inside that tunnel, you're just copying and pasting what everyone else does. You're just running the meta. And it's like, but if you don't run the meta, you automatically are at a disadvantage because everyone else runs the meta. That's why it's the meta. And I remember in year one, they tried to mitigate this by nerfing the contractor's gloves and Fox's prayer knee pads. I remember all that, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's multiplicative damage, and it's hard to ignore kind of deal.
And another big issue that they've never been able to solve in Div 1 or Div 2 is that tanks should not be able to deal as much damage as a damage build. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like tanks need to be heavily restricted from getting damage, because that's not what a tank is. A tank is supposed to... Now what they need to do is provide ways for tanks to actually give value to a team, whether it's through, cooldown buffs or, better skill haste. You know what I mean? Like, tanks should be able to do things that allow their team to perform better while they take some of the damage, because that's what a tank is supposed to be, but I feel like that's never been what it is in Div, so they need to fix that too.
I completely agree. Now, Div 3, I'm completely on board. I think I said it a few weeks ago. It's actually been several weeks now. I think you released it like 2 months ago. But whenever people start talking about Division 3, my reaction was, yeah, I'll see you there. Like, sure, bring it on. Like, it would
I just have
to
more
be
fun
better
talking about...
than this.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I just have more fun talking about the possibilities rather than the current, because I don't see the current changing all that much in the next however long, so...
Yeah.
That's my point from it.
It is pretty bad and dwindling, that's for sure. Yeah, it's rough because as a content creator, I was really pumped for the Division 2 because at the tail end of Division, I was starting to get views and subscribers and traction, and I was like, dude, Division 2 is going to be like a skyrocket. We're just going to take off. And it never, the channel took off a little bit, but the game didn't take off. And because of that, I'm at a disadvantage as a content creator because of that. Now, people like Marco Style, they understood well in the beginning. I thoroughly believe that Marco Style was told by developers at the time to move on to something else. I am 1,000,000% certain that they were like, he probably was talking to them because he was a part of the ETF, and he was probably like, hey man, this part sucks, this part sucks, this part sucks. Are you guys changing any of this? And the second that they said no, he was like, all right, I'm out. Because he hated the game since launch. He hated it. And the second that he found out it wasn't changing, he dipped. And all the rest of us were like, hey, is it changing? Hey, maybe it'll change. It'll get better. We promise. And it never really did. And the worst part about all of that, and where I also believe that there's some sort of backdoor dealings, is that this dude... as soon as they opened up shade levels, he somehow became like shade level 1000. And he doesn't play the game. And then the raid
Marco?
came out.
No, that was an edited picture. Did you see that?
At the time, but I'm pretty sure he's still level something right now.
Well, now I don't know what he is, but that one picture I know what you're talking about. It was photoshopped
On Twitter?
That was so
Oh,
funny
yeah,
though.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
but I don't know what he is now. I don't. But I know they had the whole deal with the raid, and that was a mess.
right, and that's where I'm getting at, is there was the controversy between his clan. It was multiple people in his clan and controversy surrounding this game. Because you had people like Sleepio, Wids, Solid FPS, Marco Style, King Macho. They were all a part of the same clan. And they were all doing that exploit for the targeting range. They were all doing exploits for the raid. And they all knew insider information for the other raid. It's like they were just fed this information. They got it, they went, and it was game over. Now, the basis on my allegations, a lot of people might be asking, where's your evidence? Well, buckle up, here's my evidence. So in the first raid, the day before the raid came out, there was a state of the game. Hamish Bode straight up said on State of the Game that he would be watching people stream and he would be giving them pointers. He straight up said it on State of the Game. Not only that, but on the exact same State of the Game, he straight up said, I follow Solid FPS and play with him. Not only that, but then all the rumors started brewing of Hamish being in their clan. And then it got to the point where every other state of the game, he would shout out Solid FPS. Like a lot. Like he shout him out a lot. And that just kept brewing controversy. Because right after he said that he would help people out on stream and he would watch people's streams, Solid FPS, Marco Style, and all them got World's First. Not only did they get World's First, but they were streaming an hour before the raid started for everyone else. And there was a lot of controversy there too, because it was like, are they in a private server? Are they playing on something else? Like what is it exactly? Did they play this before and they're just live premiering it? There was a lot of controversy. And obviously, Marco Style being the way he is, he just stoked that fire, and then he left and went to Destiny 2. And then with the next raid, and this one actually involves that developer, Chris Gansler, is the next raid, there was leaked documents weeks before the raid was even released.
That they all got.
I'm sure everyone and their mom saw that. Not only that, but have you ever been a part of any of their testing or anything at all? Like, have you ever been, like private servers, any of that? PTSs?
I mean, I was on the PTS in Div 1 when it was on console.
Right, okay. So
I did those too.
I'll give you some insight. And they probably are going to hate me for it. Anyways, I didn't sign any NDAs, so they can suck it. Basically, what they do is they send you an email with a code. You download whatever it is, private server, whatever, and then you can test out whatever. They'll have all the data. You can tell them your feedback, and then they move from there. I was a part of the private server for TU11, where I got to do the summit. I got to do all that, test out the mob, Ridgeway's Pride, all that. And the funny thing is that they send you a PDF. It's like a PowerPoint presentation. It explains to you everything that's going on, what they expect from you, what they want you to test, what kind of feedback they want. It's very smart, very good model. However, the leaked documents about that raid really looked familiar, because a lot of the same text and a lot of the same things they do for their private servers looked very familiar to these confidential files that were released from the raid.
Dun dun dun.
Now, now I brought this up to Chris Gansler, and this is where the whole him acting like a jerk thing came into play, because
No,
not only did he deny it, but he attacked me like
really.
hardcore. How dare you? How dare you ask me about this? You like basically Donald Trump like fake news like yelling at me. And I was like, "Okay, you're a jerk." And then I called him a jerk and he's like, "How dare you call me a jerk?" And then he later apologized to me in the DMs. It was so messed up. And the funny part was is a week later he's on a different project. But I was talking to him about the controversy because I was like, "Hey man, Marco Style just released all the documents and said that he got this from you guys weeks ago, and he did know everything about Raid, and that's why his clan not only got World's First, but got World's First and World's Second in Iron Horse." And he completely spilled the beans, everything. And no one said a fucking word. No one batted an eye. No one did anything. And I brought it up to Chris Gansler, and he freaked out. "You don't have any proof. You don't have this. You don't have that." And it's like, dude, like, the dude's like, he just released it. He just showed all the attachments. He admitted to it. Like, he even said exactly what you guys did. And he never replied back. And then after I called him a jerk a couple days later, he then apologized to me and this and that. But the thing was is deny, deny, deny. And once you get caught, don't bring it up and then walk away. Is kind of like what I got from that. And that's kind of been the thing ever since. Like, they pulled that same crap with the XP thing at the firing range, where people exploited it, but they didn't really care. And then they pulled the exact opposite when... So here's my funny thing about content creating, the Division 2 and developers. If they're a part of the PC community that the developers like, it's okay. But if they're a part of the community that the developers don't like, it's not okay. And that became abundantly clear between WIDS and EK1 Gaming. Because WIDS would purposely show you, "Hey guys, this is how you do this, this, and this. Fastest way to get XP. Congratulations." Boom. And everyone's like, "Isn't that an XP exploit? Isn't that like breaking the rules? Isn't that?" And they didn't bat an eye. But then you had EK1 Gaming, who his content and all of his biggest videos are all about bugs and glitches, where he'll break the game, show you how he broke the game, explain why the game's broken, and he does that to, you know, obviously get traction out there, but it also helps the developers fix the game. And he got completely shunned. Not only that, but then they did that whole banned wave where everyone got all their shit taken away. And to me, it's because it didn't come from the people they liked. It's like they have this like little clique within the developers and content creators where if you're not a part of this one community, they don't really care for it. And it's starting to show more and more that they're not really listening to us anymore. Like, unless you personally go and like try to DM them or contact them on a one-to-one, they might reply. It's hit and miss. But as far as like a make a video and them change anything, they completely ignore it now. Especially with all the rant videos that are coming out nowadays. They're just starting to ignore us even more. And like you said with the ETF, that's what would really help out the community, but they kind of shelved that.
I think it's just because they got no one left working on it. They don't have any manpower to even do anything if they wanted to, you know? But that, again, that's just conspiracy theory, because I think they're on Div 3, but who knows?
No, I mean, I I completely agree with you. So before I thought about doing this podcast thing, I reached out to Hamish and Yannick, and I tried to give them an idea about the ETF. And the way I explained it, they never reached out, they never replied or anything. But the way I explained it was kind of like this, where you have a situation where you could have 3 content creators and 1 developer. They all meet up on, say, Discord or Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
You have 3 content creators, 1 developer. The 3 content creators will be told to come up with 3 to 5 questions about what, they see within their community, within their experiences, within their whatever, what their, priorities are. And then you get all 3 of them to talk to this developer. And then you have 3 different perspectives about at least 10 to 15 topics. And you have 1 developer taking notes, giving feedback, and coming up with solutions. You could do that once a day for like a week. Just call it like an ETF week. And you can have so much information.
Plethora of data.
Yeah, so much information. Like, it's ridiculous. And they completely ignored me. And so I was like, well, I'll just come up with a podcast. I'll just talk to people myself. Here you go.
Did you ever watch the, back in Div 1, it was those main guys I was talking about and a few others used to do like a round table podcast. Did you ever see that?
I did not, no. I wish
they
I did.
Yeah, it was like Eric Smarko, Like Butter, Skill Up. I think Breezy Peasy. I don't even remember who that is, but I remember his name was on there. They would get together every patch that came out and talk about the main issue of the game for like an hour. It was pretty good. I was actually thinking some of us should try and get that together for this game, but yeah, it was pretty cool to watch.
I completely agree, and that's why when the Division 2 first came out, I reached out to Clint Flairwoo in the UK and tried to do like a US-UK kind of deal, but now I'm just going to do this to where I'll just get everyone's insight, and then one at a time we can just absorb the information. And yeah, man. But we're about to hit that 3-hour mark, so I'm going to go ahead and knock it out there. I don't want to have too long of a podcast episode. But
been a good one.
It's been a pleasure, RogueGold. And I will hope to see you again on here, man. It's been a pleasure. I've actually had a pretty damn good conversation with you. And I learned a lot about the Division 1 updates. Or like a refresher.
I try to keep my facts straight.
No, that's good.
Well, thanks for having me on, man. It was a lot of fun. I love to talk about Div and everything, so thank you.
Yeah, man, no worries. And that will be it for Game Chat. I am Kamikazevondoom. Don't forget, hit that like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. All right.